G'day, freedom lovers. How are we today? All you beautiful people out there. And you know, the not so beautiful people, trolls, you know, you too, big sips. You guys do so much inspirational work for us and always let us know that we're doing a great job. So I really want to appreciate, you know, the worst of the worst, you know, because we can make the best out of a bad situation, as trolls quite often show me. Thank you. Cheers. All righty then. So you probably thought Sunday roast, you probably go on some American thing. Oh, he's going to do a roast. He's going to get stuck into people. But it was actually more the opposite, you know. It's a little bit of a play on words and the terms, you know. So obviously we had Jody Lowe on the podcast the other day, Friday. And it was brought to my attention there was an incident between him and Robin, which is very unfortunate. You know, it turns out that it's not the only person he seems to be having a problem with, which he openly admitted on the podcast too. Look, I don't want to start choosing sides. I don't want to be he said, she said bullshit. You know, I'd like to think that we can all work together. Ultimately, it doesn't serve any of us to be having a go at each other over these differences of opinion, or you know, or jumping to wild conclusions without checking with people and things like that, you know, I'd like to make sure that we're all friendly. You know, it'd be wonderful if those guys could sit down and sort out their differences. That would, you know, make the world a better place. I don't see how fighting amongst ourselves is really going to help. Ultimately, that's what the whole facade, in my opinion, that we're thrown, you know, whether it's liberal versus labor, or, you know, now One Nation versus Greens, you know, they were just polarizing things and constantly attacking, because we're not focusing on the real enemy here. You know, it's the same. You know, I was in the park the other day and there was an Aboriginal woman, you know, well away, but screaming loud enough to be quite audibly heard, telling us all to go back to England. And I'm like, well, that's wonderful. You know, that if England wasn't so cold and miserable and overrun itself, you know, perhaps it might be a viable option. But, you know, as I understand it, I was born here and therefore, you know, I'm part of the land. You know, that's the way it's been told to me. You know, it's very disappointing. And, you know, maybe if we didn't have the kids, I would have wandered over and said, hey, look, why are you having a bad day? Well, I'm not your enemy. Our enemy is those who are constantly trying to set us apart, trying to set us against each other. That's the thing. We need to work together to deal with the ultimate enemy. And the ultimate enemy, as I've constantly said, is our own government at this particular point, or more to the point, those that the government serves, because we know there's a shadowy cabal behind it all. So, look, ultimately, I'd like to think that we can all get together in peace, love, and happiness and work towards a better place. But hey, look, each to their own, I guess. It'd be great if things can happen, and people could unite. But on that note, we'll probably continue that concept a little bit. Not this Friday coming, the next Friday we've got Guru coming on. So by all means, jump on and have a look and throw your support in. I did notice there weren't many people, or there were many people. I mean, there was a few regulars were not there, and I can only assume it's because of the feud between Jody and Robin that I was unaware of. At least not. I didn't know the details. I kind of knew that something had happened, but one thing I've noticed is Jody does seem to butt heads with quite a few people, and even had a few conversations with people in the last couple of days regarding it. So it's unfortunate. I think his heart's in the right place and he's trying to do the right thing. But as I discussed, the fight or fly response tends to do some weird shit. When you find yourself in that defensive position, you've got to really sort of have a good think about where we're at, and try to find the calm and rational place. When you're in that fight fly response, you're not thinking rationally, you're thinking reactively. You're gonna go into, do I need to defend or do I need to fight? Do I need to run, being a pretty good defense? As my old martial arts instructor would always point out right before he punch you, one of the best places to be, one of the best defenses is to not be there. Don't let you don't want to get hit. And even he said, some of the people he'd trained with, he'd say to him, oh, you haven't been punched in the head enough. He's gone, well, try not to get punched in the first place. So it's unfortunate that sort of thing is transpired. And I did put a little clip up there, of what transpired, because I thought what was important while Jody was explaining his point of view, that I explained my point of view, which was I would prefer that we could all be friends. And that's kind of where I want to leave that for now. Look, if Robin wants to come on and present her side of the things, just so that everybody's got a perspective on what's really going on, she's more than welcome. But outside of that, I think we'll leave it at that for as far as that goes. Let's sort of get into things. It's a little bit disorganized today because I ended up having to wrestle with this software, and certain websites are suddenly not there when I went back to them. It shows when I find something, archive it straight away. So there's about 5 or 6 things that I really wanted to talk about. It's just gone now, but I guess that just shortens the show. Sips, ladies and gentlemen. Again, I went to do this several times during the day. I'm in a bit of pain at the moment as well. I had a miracle worker whose name shall remain nameless at the moment come through and do some good work for me on Thursday, and Friday I felt like $1 million. I'm like, fuck yeah, this is good. I mean, I was a bit stiff and a bit sore in the morning, as to be expected after having so much work done. But Saturday really hit me. I had to have a nana nap, and then I crashed out for 14 hours after my nana nap, so I got up for maybe 3 or 4 hours, something like that, and went crashed out again. I was, whoa. Yeah, the body really needed to do some repair, and it's still quite sore right now. So I'll persevere. We'll see how we go. I'm just trying to label a few things so they go together in the right spot. We'll see what happens. Sorry, guys. It's there's only a handful here at the moment on a Sunday half. I guess I haven't really stuck to my usual time frames, so things are a little bit out there. It's just all a little bit out of order. Things I meant to get to that I just didn't get to, and not that I don't appreciate the phone calls I had. Thank you for those who did contact. It was good yarning, but I don't want to do that. let's just put these things into a different naming convention. It's a little bit random, but it'll. Oh, sorry, I needed more B's in there. Let's try C instead, huh? Just want to try and get them away from here so I can, I said, get this somewhat order, because it's important to start with an Alpu memesy. I think is where we really want to go. It's he's always the great humor point. I mean, what else can you do? When you got the most incompetent leader we've ever seen. It really does beg to wonder when you see Gough Whitlam was removed so quickly, after doing an astounding amount of damage. This guy's still there. Like, he needs to be removed. If anything, I cannot see a bigger threat to this country than Albo. I've never seen anything quite like it. I remember hearing about how bad Gough Whitlam was from the family, because the socialist indoctrination system had instilled a bit of, we should go towards Labor because, in my view as a kid, the Liberal Party wasn't doing us any good, Sips. And then we got to see what Labor can do. And wow, it was exactly as what my parents had told me. No one fucks the country harder than the Labor Party. And well, we're watching it happen in real time, ladies and gentlemen. That wonderful advert for voting for One Nation. We'll deal with that a little bit more as we go on. Another one of Albo's amazing achievements here, Australia's annual net overseas migration, that's pretty high. You can see during COVID 1984, it was actually down where it should be. Amazingly, people, you can see this spike. It actually goes into the negative. Isn't that interesting? It's gone into the negative. And what people left the country, and they were only leaving, would seem. Isn't that an interesting thing? Like a massive turnaround. I wonder why. It's most, we'll have a look at that again, but we've become the most one of the most tyrannical countries on the face of the earth, which is something I would never have thought imaginable. I always thought, we've got to stop following America because America's on the road to tyranny like nothing else I'd ever seen. Wanted to stand away from the ridiculous leftist values that were being pushed through their horrific culture. And you could just see how controlled they are by certain individuals, by certain gangs. Let's call them gangs. It's a good way of talking about it, because it's what they are. They band together in their own little thug crowd and carry out things just like they were taught in the Bible. But anyway, the latest ABS data reveals that the Albanese government has let almost 1.3 million migrants on a net basis over the past 3 financial years, equivalent to 1,160 per day, blowing all previous records out of the water. Wow. Isn't that disturbing? And of course, while everybody's jumping up and down about Pauline Hanson's, free plane that was given to her by a mining giant, of course, how has that compromised her? What damage will that do to the environment? Of course, is a big question. Hey, we've all got to live in the environment, so it does beg to wonder. But compared to this, drugs, rorts, and strippers, CFMEU's $15 billion corruption of Victoria's big build. $15 billion funneled by Labor cronies into the CFMEU. Dirty money, dark forces, Australia's biggest crime syndicate. CFMEU and the Labor combined, is that where the syndication comes? These little gangs have grouped together, the socialists and their thug cartel. Everybody's jumping up and down about $2 million plane. Was it 2 million? I can't remember how much it was. Dollar plane given to her. It didn't cost the taxpayer, didn't cost you and me, the average Joe, for a change, but this shit did cost us. This criminal cartel did cost us. How are these people still allowed to hold any office in an allegedly, democratic society with wonderful rules in place to protect people and its assets and its money from criminal activities? Yet crime seems to thrive quite convincingly and quite obviously with Labor at the helm. But of course, right-wing extremism is the problem, and we can see some of these radical right-wing extremists here telling Albo exactly what they think of him. So he doesn't even seem to be able to wrangle the support of those his butts, he slurps ridiculously all the time. So how do I know this climate crisis is a scam? Well, this is a wonderful little chart somebody's knocked up here. Here are 5 reasons. 1, they preach sacrifice but don't practice it. So while jumping up and down about Pauline Hanson's one jet, have a look at how many leftists are flying around in jets right now. We've seen Albo doing it. We've seen Penny Wong flying to China, all these people flying all over. We flew and burnt all these, several thousand liters or whatever of jet fuel to bring us more fuel home. It's just insane. Like, how does anybody buy this shit? You have to be an idiot to actually buy into this. But look, too, they fly across the world to tell us how to reduce our carbon footprint. A perfect example of the scam, in effect. I can't even think of the word right now. Sorry, pain is getting me. I need some more sips, I think. Wealthy alarmists still buy oceanfront properties. Yeah, interesting, because the seas are rising. They rarely criticize China and India. 2 of the biggest polluters, 2 of the most highly populated countries in the world. They keep telling us, the world's overpopulated, the world's overpopulated, but those 2 countries are making up nearly 1/3, if not more, of the world's population in just 2 countries. But hey, they're solving their population problem by sending them all over to Australia, it would seem. 5, their solutions always mean more government power and higher costs. And we are most certainly witnessing that in real time as life goes on, And of course, the current fuel crisis. It's amazing how many people I would have thought be a little bit more intelligent and say, the answer is we all need electric vehicles. Really? That's what they're guiding you to? Can't you see it? You don't want electric vehicles. Already they're talking about, kill switches and people being able to switch your car off for you and all sorts of horrible shit. No, the electric vehicle is another word for control. It's bad. It's very bad, and you can see that straight away. There's these stupid little orange scooters and shit getting around town here, and they get to certain boundaries and they don't work. You can't go there. That's exactly what they want for your car. You can't go past here. There's your 15-minute city barrier, for example, just to cite one. But it's a lot easier to stop people moving about and having freedom if you can just turn their car off. Brilliant, isn't it? Brilliant. So it's so fiendishly simple. Quarantine is when you restrict the movement of sick people. Tyranny is when you restrict the movement of healthy people. Very straightforward, but I'm sure the audience already understands that. This is more to help the trolls, because I know they still have a bit of trouble with some really basic concepts. That's why they keep defending their masters so much. Can you imagine being so sick in the head that you want to defend the guy who whips you every day? Okay. Righto. Anyway, doing it tough where we work. So businesses battle fuel hit. Nearly 90% of Australians' businesses have been hit by increased costs due to the Middle East fuel crisis. Interesting, they call it a Middle East fuel crisis. I could say, shitty planning and horrific decades of liberal labor destroying our country, because we should be self-sufficient and this shouldn't have affected us in any way, shape or form in the first place. But let's negate that fucking common sense logic here and just deal with what the lamestream would have us believe. A new survey by the Victorian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, I'm sure they're not funded by the Labor Party in any way, shape or form, found that businesses are being forced to cut costs and charge operations and are bracing for further disruption as the crisis rips through the economy, as I'm sure it's been designed to do. Some 87% of businesses told the survey that pain at the pump is hitting their bottom lines, 8% of which said costs had increased by more than 50%. 2/3 of businesses said moderate. Oh, fuck me. What? I've got mandate in the head for some reason. By God, pain. Stop. Let's try that again. Sorry, two-thirds of businesses said there were moderate to severe impacts on their day-to-day operations. To survive the squeeze, 30% of businesses said they had been forced to pass on costs to their customers, which is what always happens. The same as, hey, we're going to raise the taxes on businesses so that you don't have to pay them, but you end up paying them because they pass that cost on to you. It's typical leftard thinking, can never wrap your head around. But anyway, only 6% of businesses reported no additional costs. Well, that's interesting. I wonder what they must be sitting at home, in some way selling something that doesn't involve moving product. So, well, 35, or actually, it's probably the banks because they just invent money. It doesn't matter. Said their costs had increased by up to a quarter, and 21% said their costs. There should be a little apostrophe in there. I guess they've done well at the mainstream checking point there, had risen between 26 and 50%. So, yeah, things are not looking good. A quarter of the Victorian businesses that responded said the soaring fuel prices were at level they could no longer level that they could no longer absorb. I mean, as if Victoria hasn't suffered enough business death at the hands of the Labor Party under dictator Dan and his communist regime. What's left is now being mopped up by this shit. Workers were already being hit by the increased costs of businesses. I mean, again, and this is one of the things that people don't stop to think about, and I think about all the time. Like, how much does it cost you to go to work? You got to think about it, especially if you buy your lunch, rather than, make it at home, take a sanger or something like that. The cost of fuel for you to get there, the wear and tear on your own vehicle, all these things. And you're just a worker drone, so you're not allowed to claim that unless you've run your own business. Isn't that interesting? Worker drones are not allowed to claim shit. That's a cost to going to work, as far as I'm concerned, and it's a heavily taxed one at that. So how much does it cost you to go to work? And now your costs to go to work have also increased. It's another thing they're not taking into consideration here. Nearly a quarter of businesses said they would likely have to lay off staff or reduce hours if shortages continued. So there you go. We're working towards more unemployment. Congratulations. Sips to that. What's coming through clearly is that this is no longer a future risk. It's a current, real, and escalating challenge. Supply chains are slowing, costs are rising rapidly, and confidence waning, as if we've learnt nothing from what transpired 6 years ago with the COVID 1984 bullshit. The survey represented 132 businesses across Victoria. So, with those in both regional and urban areas saying they had been hit by the effects of the fuel crisis. Can we call it a fuel crisis? I'm going to call it government incompetence. A complete horrific lack of management. You should not be in this position that we are dependent in the first place. It's that fucking simple. So apparently Victoria is particularly exposed. Why? Because they've got a fucking Labor government, no doubt. She said, we are the freight, logistics, manufacturing, agricultural, and construction capital of the country. So anyway, other interesting things, more churches burning. Isn't that interesting? This is insane. Weird how it's never a mosque. Well, I'm not saying it should be. Anybody should go out and do that. But I have to wonder how long before that does start to happen. The historic Eglis Saint Chiriachu, I don't know. It's a French word, so there's a good chance a lot of these letters are no longer in use. The church in Montenach, I guess, France, was just set on fire, survived both world wars, but couldn't survive diversity, according to this play. I didn't make it. I'm just finding shit on the internet to share. That's the general public opinion, of how people feel about this. It does always seem to be one specific religion gets shit on a lot more than the others. And, it doesn't involve a Star of David. I'm sorry. Stop. Please do not enter our hospital if you're feeling unwell. Why else would I be there? It's like, you go into the pharmacy, and you hand your script over. You're obviously there to get some kind of medicine. They say, how are you? I don't know about you, but I say, well, I'm fucking wonderful. Why else would I be here handing you this? Think about it. What the fuck? How do you think I am? I'm in fucking agony. Fuck. Sips. Just like, I mean, It would have been a comedy skit 7 years ago, you know, somebody standing at the door going, "Are you unwell? Oh, sorry, you can't come into this hospital. You're unwell." Like, it's just so fucking retarded. It's insane, you know. But here, this is apparently commonplace here in the 2020 world of you know, the 2020 world. Hindsight, you know, hindsight is 20, always 2020. You know, like, fuck me. From 2020 on, it's just been, this is the new norm. This kind of absolute fucking stupidity. I told myself I wasn't going to swear, but I swear I need like a little zapper that zaps me every time I swear. You know, I watched a little bit of the previous podcast, trying to figure out a little bit about what happened and stuff, you know, or more to seek clarity more than anything on certain things that were said, you know. And I'm like, wow, I swear a lot. But you know what? I find most people seem to pick on me for saying struth. Nobody points me out for saying the 4-letter colorful word that I'm trying to avoid saying. I'm not going to be successful, I can tell you that, but I'm going to give it my best. So who wants to reduce emissions? Well, I'm trying to reduce the word fuck. Oh, I did it again. Who wants to tell China? Yeah, exactly. You know, you could add India to that too. I didn't rape the ugly one, did I? Dad, that's mum. I seen that and I was in tears. That's one of the funniest things I've seen in a long time. Oh my god, you know, Mr. Epstein's frequent flyer points here himself. 3D graphene oxide. I didn't even realize I put this in there. I must have put this. This is a bit of a collection of things that have been gathered up for a few weeks. So some things are probably going to be just as much a surprise to me as they are others. But anyway, 3D. I meant to look this up to confirm it. Apologies if this is a fake. I don't know. I didn't get a chance to check because I forgot it was here. But 3D graphene oxide nanoparticles for cloud seating patent, US 2022. So it's a recent patent. Obviously, you know, people weren't taking enough of their fucking poison willingly. So we're going to spray it in the air. United States patent application publication, 3D reduced graphene oxide, SiO2 composite for ice nucleation. So, you know, as if the weather modification hadn't become doomsday enough, you know, the present invention, it's a bit blurry. Let's zoom right in on this. The present invention provides for an ice nucleating particle for cloud seeding and other applications, which can initiate ice nucleation at the temperature of -8 degrees Celsius. That's interesting. If this is an American, why do they use Celsius? Don't they usually use Fahrenheit? Anyway, further, the ice nucleation particle number increased continuously and rapidly with the reducing of temperature. The ice nucleating particle in the present invention is a nanostructured porous composite of three-dimensional reduced graphene oxide and silica oxide nanoparticles. And there's a wonderful little number there to give you the chemical composition, or letters really. But anyway, the present invention also provides for a process for synthesizing the PRGOSN. And for anyone wondering, that's kind of what it looks like for me reading without my glasses anyway. So anyway. All right, that's a video that's not supposed to be there. Anyway, we're fighting for murderers, rapists, and terrorists. And yep, that's the Greens for you. That's exactly what they're fighting for. You know, and we wonder why we have such decadence in our society. Oh, Nick says the colorful F word language is a verb. When I used to be at clubs back in the day, some guy asked if I wanted to dance. I replied with wrong verb. It's it's not a bad word. I know, I'm with you. Like, it doesn't really bother me too much, but I did watch this one little bit from some generated clips that come up, and I'm just, oh wow, I think I might have overused it. You know, obviously I'm using it instead of you know, it's a little bit more interesting, I guess, but some people do still have trouble with words. You know, it's an old thing I had a long time ago, and I struggled to find it, but it was a little skit It's about a minute and a half long, and it's the definition of the word fuck, and it starts off going on about how it's derived from German, the word frucken, which means to strike, which I haven't actually checked, but anyway, whether that's true or not. But it was an interesting little skit, and then it goes on to all the different ways you can use the word, and you can use it in almost any sentence, in almost any other way. It is one of the most diverse words in the English language. So it was a really good skit, and I was hoping to find it and play it for people, but I haven't been able to dig up that last little file. I learned a new word with Shashka last night. Shittery. Okay. Do elaborate. I'm not sure what Sascha or Saska really is. Shittery. Is that a fancy name for the dunny, or is that what you call a restaurant that really sucks? Please let me know. All right. So some more of the actually, this was supposed to go with the Greens thing, but obviously I didn't get around to organizing things properly. Former Greens candidate Jonathan Peter Doig arrested over alleged child sex abuse offences. A former Greens candidate who ran at last year's federal election has been charged with 3 child sex abuse offences after Australian federal police executed a warrant at the climate activist's home in Sydney. So here we are trying to save the world for this benefit of children, and this is how he treats the children. Only a leftist could be so riddled with contradiction, and of course, I know there's other arrests to do with the, certain member of the Labor Party we'll talk about. Don't you worry. The Australian can reveal Greens member Jonathan Peter Doig. I think it is a dog, perhaps dog with an eye. Except I actually like dogs, so I don't really want to insult dogs. They're much better than cats, in my opinion. Cats represent all the things I don't really like in humans. Selfishness. Desire to spit all over the place. And, tend to make my eyes puff out and shit as well because I'm allergic to the fuckers. But anyway, who ran in the southern Sydney seat of Cook against Scott Morrison, was arrested at his Guymay Bay home by AFP officers on Tuesday afternoon following a lengthy investigation. I'm not sure exactly which Tuesday that was. I think this is actually from a couple of weeks ago. So it's good to see that the police are starting to arrest the filthy left for the crimes that they commit. It's about time. Mr. Doig will appear in Sydney's Central Local Court on Wednesday, accused of allegedly paying more than $120,000 over 10 years for child sex abuse material, including the live streaming of child abuse from the Philippines. Fuck me. Well, there's a nation we should be more friendly with, isn't it? By God. I believe they have, an excessive amount of Islamic populations going on as well in that country. Not to say that the two are connected, but it's an interesting observation to make nonetheless. The 57-year-old was charged with procuring a child to engage in sexual activity outside Australia using a carriage service to solicit child abuse material and the possession of child abuse material obtained or accessed through a carriage service. The alleged offences carry a minimum sentences of 15 years imprisonment. Oh, maximum, sorry. It should be minimum, but anyway. Greens candidate Jonathan Doig, second from the left, this guy here, with Greens councillor Dominic Doig left. So with Greens councillor. Okay. A former federal Greens leader. Isn't that one of the, most horrific faces you've ever seen, just because you know what it's associated with? And, little Miss Fuck You, another face that we all dread to see. Pointing out the bullshit. Actually, that was from the other day. I used that, didn't I? In my day, we didn't invite the enemy in and give them welfare. We just shot the bastards. It's hard to disagree with that. I mean, I don't know if this guy's was aware that his photo was being used for this. It's just something that I found. I didn't make it up myself. Can't disagree with the sentiment though. And it's one of those things I've never understood. If we are constantly at war with people in the Middle East and and when it's convenient, using them as wonderful example of terrorism and why we need all these draconian fucking laws, why are we bringing them in the first place? It to me, it's a tactical nightmare. It doesn't make any sense. If there is logic to it, by all means, please somebody explain it to me. I'm all ears. But to me, it just does not make tactical sense. Sips. There's no such thing as government money. Only taxpayer money. I like that. Leftists, even in government, need to know that too, because we'll look at that. Anyway, 300,000 litres of fuel burned in the air as hypocritical PM tells Aussies to save. That's straight out of the Herald Sun. You don't really need to read the article. That's all you need. This guy is an absolute threat to Australia, and I don't understand how they think they can justify doing these things. Just a friendly reminder, if you keep voting left, you'll have nothing left. That actually sits well. As you can see, they're just not, letters and numbers from where I've downloaded them from, But anyway, the Wit brothers, half wit, dim wit, fuck wit. I'm trying not to swear, but look, if you change the spelling of it and say fuck, is it okay? We do the crow call, friggin' what's old mate Graham Kennedy? Is that okay if you do it like that? Apparently it wasn't for Graham Kennedy. It got him shut down. But anyway, Labor. Isn't this a wonderful sign to be seen? Dead and buried where they belong. These people are a disgrace. No words come out of their mouth that can ever be trusted. Same can be said for most politicians in reality, but countries with the highest debt, Italy's down the bottom, probably maybe all the money that the Roman Catholic Church has been stealing for thousands of years, through tribute. Tribute is one of those historical concepts. Go and have a look at how many countries and religions and things demanded tribute, and still to this day, they just don't talk about it as much these days. Anyway, Brazil, third world country. Down the bottom there, Estonia. I'm not sure if Estonia is the third world. I think it is. Greece, I think they're trying to turn it into a third world country, and we can keep going up the list. You can see all these other things, Singapore, Chile, third world nations. Germany, again, they turned that into a third world nation. The damage that poor Germany suffered over the last 100+ years, from the losses of wars. But isn't it interesting? The Rothschild family started their empire in Germany, and when Mr. Netanyahu, the Yahoo of all Yahoos, was running for cover, he went and hid in Germany. Go figure. What does it tell you about history and what you're told? Anyway, China's doing better, Japan's doing better, everybody's doing better than Australia. Yep. Household debt. We're all up the duff. Just like to thank, Labor and all the fuckwits who continue to support socialism for the wonderful job that they've done creating such a horrific state of debt in this country, And Canada, of course, another country that's horrifically adopted the same moronic left-hearted stupidity that Australia has. And look, that's what you pay. If you vote left, you'll have nothing left. It's that simple. One Nation Party may not be a solution to all your problems, but Albanese and Labor are pretty much the cause of all of your problems. And I'd just like to expand on that and add the Liberal Party into it, because let's face it, we've gone Labor, Liberal, Labor, Liberal, Labor, Liberal since before I was born, and all we've seen is a steady decline. And all you have to do is talk to people. I've spoken to my family, I've spoken to other people's families, I've spoken to old timers, and sometimes, I prefer me footy team Liberal, I prefer me footy team Labor, and they're stuck with their footy team, like it was some sort of religious ceremony handed down to them at birth. You're now this religion, you are now this political party, and that's your fucking footy team, right? We've defined who you are before you're even born. They even now sell footy flavored bloody birth certificates, and shit like that. Oh my god, and at what point do you realize you've been indoctrinated? At what point do you realize, well, if I was allowed to choose my footy team, would you have chose what your parents told you? If you were allowed to choose your religion, would you choose the one your parents told you? Think about this. At what point do you live your life and make decisions for yourself? But anyway, I'm going to, say Liberal and Labor are pretty much the cause of all our problems. Maybe not all, but the vast majority. We'll say maybe 99%, There's probably 1% of the problems that, they didn't create, But, and again, maybe we could expand and say, well, let's be nice. We'll say 95% of what they caused. The other 5% are ones they monopolized on. $1 billion treaty. Speaking of things that cost us at the expense of particularly the Labor government in this one, $1 billion treaty deal. Victoria's new Indigenous representatives body will cost taxpayers about $1 billion over the next decade, a report has revealed. An independent analysis by the Parliamentary Budget Office has commissioned by Liberal leader Jess Wilson, who has vowed to scrap the treaty. Now, at the end of the day, we know our government is up shit creek without a paddle, because they know the Indigenous people have never really ceded their sovereignty. They've never really claimed that, which is a bit of a problem. They're trying to, but again, there's a bit of, in my opinion, from what I've seen, there's a bit of debate over which way we should go and how it should be done. I see it as the real Indigenous people, the good ones that I, find myself quite happily and easily able to talk to, gone out on country with, and actually celebrate a real welcome to country, not the fucking bullshit that we're shoved down our throats at government funded events, versus the ones that are on the Labor Party payroll. And isn't it, we'll talk about it a little bit more, but isn't it interesting how the ones on the Labor Party payroll don't seem to know shit about their culture and are always taking big amounts of money to do fucking welcome to countries? They've been bought and sold. It's the only way I can see it. You're selling out your country, and it's a bit the same, even things like the Gaia Network. I know, hey, go and have a look. And yeah, I've paid a few bucks to watch it myself, just because it's better content than the crap that, you get in, say, the Disney Channel. But again, why we shouldn't be paying for any of this sort of stuff? True spirituality, true culture shouldn't cost money. It should just be there. It should be part of the, if you want to get into the tribal elements, and here's one the leftards will fucking hate. The idea of, celebrating one's culture shouldn't be forced down anyone's throat. It should be open and available, and, I went out willingly to go and spend time with the Aboriginals and embrace elements of their culture. And I personally found it very enlightening. And it actually got me thinking about how much of our own culture has been stamped out and destroyed over thousands of years in various different ways across the globe by elitist scum who seek nothing more than control. And when you see these people so engaged and connecting, and I'm jealous of the fact that they've only had 200 years of fighting against the evil tyranny, to maintain their control, their not their control, their culture. Sorry, whereas you look at England. Well, what do we know about the Druids? They fucking wiped them out. That was the Roman Catholic Church. Thanks, guys. They wiped out the Jewish religion, and various others all along. Celtics, you try to figure out what's happened in the Viking culture. And again, a lot of that is, it's been lost to time. It's a massive cultural destruction that's happened on this planet for so long. And even you want to go and have a look at Mauro Biglini's work, which I've mentioned many a time, and I will do another podcast, and I've been finding some more really good shit about that. I might have to start doing things on Patreon, just because a job like that's going to be a big and involved one. And I kind of feel like I need to earn a buck doing some of this stuff. So I'm going to start doing some paid for only content. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen. I want to make things free, and I would kind of hope that those who can afford to sort of contribute would. But I'm kind of getting to that understanding that, well, if you keep giving the milk away for free, nobody wants to buy the cow. Hey, so as much as I'd like to say, I'd love to give everything away for free, that'd be wonderful, but I can't go to the supermarket and get my food for free. So that's the sad reality. And I've been saying that since a musician. People say, oh, well, are you against Napster? Yeah, I'm against Napster and things like that, giving people's music away for free. Like, it's fair enough. You take money out of Metallica's pocket, they got plenty. But what about the up and coming bands? And the way technology's moved, like, it's now at a point where you have to give your music away for free for people to pay any attention. Hopefully you can make something off t-shirt sales. No, that's not the way these things should work. Like, people, you've got to support what you enjoy, is the moral of the story there. And if you're enjoying this content, please, reach out. We've got things like the 7-day guide trial, which helps me a little bit. There's the stake thing. It's fuck all. If you're interested in the stock market, might be a good time to start buying in stocks into energy and things like that. For example, personally, I can't afford it, not at the moment. Or contact me at NQ Freedom Network at protonmail.com. Help us out where you can, because things are tough. I guess and things are tough for everyone. I don't expect everyone to be able to pay. That's why I like to make everything free, so that those who can't afford it can still have access to things, and those who can afford it can hopefully, help support those who are spreading the good word. Anyway, never before has removing a PM been so critical. Albanese is destroying Australia beyond recovery. He is incompetent, incapable, clueless, a liar, and a traitor to Australia. Couldn't agree more. It should have been with the elbow section, but yeah. Anyway, this is the, I don't want to steal the idea, but I seen this and I thought, well, if this was a what the fuck show, this would be the is this racist? I seen it and I have to confess, I was in tears. I was absolutely laughing. The black half of Tiger Woods tased by cops after the Asian half crashes his car. Oh, it's stereotypical. It's probably not funny to some people, but I couldn't help it. I thought it was funny. Sips. And no, ladies and gentlemen, bag me out. Am I an asshole for laughing at that? Black men with white women are 2% of the population, but 75% of advertisements. Seems like there might be an agenda there. What do you think, ladies and gentlemen? And is it racist to have made such an observation? Speaking of racist, is anybody against the new RoboCop movie? As if the other remake wasn't bad enough. Like, that was a horrific movie. It was so bad. Like, the original RoboCop, utterly brilliant. I mean, 8-year-old me that watched it, at a Chinese kid's house because, well, they were Chinese. Parents weren't there. They didn't give a shit. So we watched RoboCop, unedited, R-rated version. And I think to a degree, I'm still somewhat traumatized, from having watched it at the age of 8. But as time's gone on and I've gone past that and I've challenged the trauma of, watching Paul Murphy get blown to pieces, piece by piece, I've come to realize what a brilliant fucking movie it is. And particularly with the underlying tones of corporate takeovers and privatizing police forces and things like that. Those 3 movies were brilliant. I used to think RoboCop 3 was really shit because it was pretty low budget and pretty low grade. But you look at it and you see the story they're trying to tell, and you're like, holy shit, this is quite prophetic. But yeah, this is what the diversity and inclusion RoboCop looks like, and you can't help but laugh at it. All right, those wind turbines are such an eyesore. I had to grab this one because obviously this is what passes for leftist intelligence. Now, obviously they've got this huge big cloud and all that sort of stuff, but when you see the footprint of this shit, and what they're missing in their picture here is the bulldozer plowing down all the trees, the roads, all the other devastation, and it's subjective leftist bullshit. You can clearly see this, and it was shit like this that inspired me to say to Pauline Hanson, this is the kind of garbage they put out. If you were to do a 2-3 minute little South Park style friggin' cartoon, to address these kinds of things and actually add some information to explain to people why this is utter propaganda, I think you do well. She clearly listened, and was it James Ashby claimed the glory? Thanks, arsehole. How a sexy plane upset the left. Oh, it's a very little plane. Left-wing politics global is full of sexy planes. If you want to see a parade of private jets, attend a climate conference. Couldn't agree more. Or you could see the G20s and various other fucking, globalist elitist scum where they all fly in on a private jet and they want to jump up and down about Pauline Hanson's one. They'll be there lined up next to the runway, attended by expensive cars with super yachts moored at the harbour nearby. Yes, nothing says I care for my environment quite like the ability to profit from caring. The prevalence of private jets among green industry CEOs, global bureaucrats, and serving politicians has reached saturation. It has become a meme. And yet you'll be hard pressed to find criticism of this outside a few conservative publications. Left-wing rags avert their eyes to the private jet lifestyle of their climate fighting heroes. I wonder why. You can safely preach net zero from the stairs of a jet. However, If your political party is called One Nation, you better be prepared for an onslaught of criticism by accepting a sexy plane from Gina Reinhardt. I couldn't sum it up better. I mean, as if their lavish lifestyle wasn't enough to wake up the most hardened leftard. You'd think the horrific crime and corruption from various other places in their life might wake them up, but no. I guess when you've got a footy team, you support them to the bitter end. I won't get too personal on it, but I've come across some people, for instance, when the Essendon footy team had their drug scandal and, their favorite football players are fucking are in cahoots with it all. And they're just like, no, it couldn't be him. No, I can't. It's just straight away will not believe reality when shown to them because their love of their superhero has been, is just so well ingrained into them, You're like trying to explain to someone that, well, maybe Jesus wasn't the nice person you were told he was, like trying to explain that to a Christian, trying to explain to, to a Jew that, you guys, Yahweh was actually more of a warlord. Like, I mean, there's a whole, you can clearly see that from the Old Testament, there's references to the book of Yahweh's wars. There's a whole book dedicated to Yahweh's wars. The guy was clearly a warmonger, although that book has gone missing very conveniently. I wonder if there's a copy at the bottom of the Vatican or someplace such as that. But anyway, I'm going off track. But, Senator Malcolm Roberts also had something to say. Left-wing politics globally is full of planes, private jets, Actually, that's exactly the same as what we got from there. So there you go. Booing is disrespectful to the Anzacs. There's some of the people who do this to our war memorials. Yep, you got to wonder. Again, the contradiction of the left is fucking astounding. Like here's all the war memorials that have been desecrated and attacked by leftists. But they want to jump up and down about a bit of booing for something that has no place in Anzacs stuff, as far as I'm concerned, in any way, shape, or form. Like. Stop trying to politicize this shit. It's bad enough they've infiltrated footy and schools and everything. They want to infiltrate their filthy fucking politics into absolutely everything. They are parasites. Anyway, here's a wonderful example of how much your government gives a shit about you. North Queensland flood recovery gets 8 million injection. Australia inks 518 million rugby deal with Papua New Guinea to combat China influence. Yep. Nothing says fuck the people quite like that, hey? There's $510 million, difference between buying a footy team for Papua New Guinea and saving people from floods in their own country with their own tax dollars. Now, I don't know, Australians, is there anybody out there that agrees that this is good? Anybody? I'm really looking forward to seeing anybody who actually thinks this is a good idea. We're in a time of crisis. We have so many crises. The ultimate crisis being government, but it funnels down, it branches like a family tree from grubberment into the various other problems. And it's them taking our money, funneling it offshore. Why are we being robbed blind constantly? Probably because we allow it. So this is Pauline Hanson's One Nation thing. So we start off with what the Australian said. Barnaby Joyce claims directors would face jail over concealed renewable losses. Now, I think it's important that we start there because the Australian have gone for a headline here. They haven't put a full stop or anything. So it's almost as if they've cut the sentence. But normally you go ... if there's more to go to it, So let's get the whole thing where it seems to be actually corrected. If the federal government was a corporate board, see, it's important. They've cut the beginning, It could face jail time for hiding huge renewable energy losses from the 2026 budget. So it's very different to what the newspapers have shown you. By taking away certain things, you've taken the sentence out of context. And you're basically saying that, that Barnaby Joyce is ready to jail these people, but that's not what he said at all. What he said is if the federal government was a corporate board, which shows you the difference between how things operate in the really real world and the socialist world where we just take everything we want from the people and fuck them. Who cares? That's the difference. So very important to see how the mainstream manipulate things. Speaking of manipulation, they'll try and sell you this as the poster child for transgenderism, but let's face it, affirming their delusion is not loving them. It's I feel sorry for them. They're sick and they need help, and this is not helping. You don't help people by encouraging stupidity. Sips. So did we get that answer from Jan before? I didn't see that. Can my wonderful comment team perhaps go through, see if she did answer that question I asked? I'd like to see it. This is a good one. I thought it was a perfect example of it. A fine is a tax for doing something wrong. A tax is a fine for doing something good. So what's my motivation here? Damned if I do, damned if I don't. Donald J. Trump. Israel never talked to me into the war. So this is interesting. He's trying to say, he's trying to distance himself, it would seem. The results of October 7th added to my lifelong opinion that Iran can never have a nuclear weapon. Did. I watch and read the fake news, pundits and polls in total disbelief. 90% of what they say are lies and made up stories. And the polls are rigged, much as the 2020 presidential election was rigged, just like the results in Venezuela, which the media doesn't like talking about. The results in Iran will be amazing. And if Iran's new leaders' regime change are smart, Iran can have a great and prosperous future. So it's kind of like do as we're told, and you can do well. I couldn't help but look at this and feel, what, we get the same thing from, our vile leftist government. Or I've seen the same thing happen with the Townsville City Council, particularly under Jenny Hill's crooked campaigning. And we've seen that crooked nature of Townsville City Council has not stopped. It's maintained its system regardless of what the people want. They don't care. It's all about scaring the shit out of you, blowing you up, bombing you, economically depriving you. And look, this can all end if you just do what we want you to. It doesn't seem to matter whose side you support. It's all about do as you're told. Do as you're told. We are the power, isn't it? It's very interesting, isn't it? Real wages are set to fall back 15 years. Wow. Congratulations. This is another marvelous achievement for the Labor government. Brilliant. Brilliant. Mind you, it's sort of cut off a little bit here. There's probably more filth to come through, but wow, talk about rolling the clock back. And much like the concept of the Sunday roast, wasn't it wonderful smelling the roast and you knew it was Sunday, and those wonderful childhood memories of how good things used to be, sort of thing. Well, when we were going back in time, this is not what I meant. But Labor seems to be confused. Oh, you want to go back in time? Right, no worries. We'll leave everything else straight, but your wages can go back to that. Fucking horrific. And they claim to be the party that gives a shit about the people. You've got to wonder, really, what goes through these people's heads. And it seems to be, I can't help but wonder, every time I watch the Labor Party and the way they do things, it's like they don't give a shit what the people think, what the people actually want. It's about how much of our socialist filthy agenda can we push through in the time that we have. Who cares what damage we do? Because the damage seems to be the intention. I can't see any other way around that. Somebody else can give me a bit of insight as to what they're trying to achieve, but the systematic destruction of our country seems to be it, and as fast as they can, as hard and as fast as they can get away with. So anyway, this is one that Heidi pointed out to us. So thanks, Heidi. Ensuring integrity in litigation inquiry into legal services oversight. So the petition of the residents of the state of Queensland draws to attention. So I'd just like to say that Heidi didn't actually create this. She just pointed out to me that somebody else had done it. In her words, to paraphrase something effective, she was like, why didn't I think of this? But there probably would have been a conflict of interest. So anyway, let's continue. The petition of the residents of the state of Queensland draws to the attention of the House a request that the Attorney General initiate an inquiry into the effectiveness of the Legal Services Commission in upholding professional standards under the Australian Solicitors Conduct Rules and Bar Association Barrister Conduct Rules. Members of the public have reported that solicitors and barristers have breached their duty to the court by misleading the court, presenting altered or fabricated evidence, omitting material facts, or failing to exercise independent judgment. Never would have seen that coming, eh? Such conduct undermines the rule of law, erodes public confidence in the legal profession. No shit. No shit. And risks bringing the courts into disrepute. While the separation of powers prevent interference in judicial decisions, it does not preclude an inquiry into systemic failures where legal practitioners mislead the court and legal services commissions fail to investigate credible complaints. Now, this is a big fucking thing because there's so many examples of this shit happening, and like just look at what's happening to poor Heidi. They're specifically targeting her, and in a lot of cases, it seems to be fabricated bullshit, and it's just it's the state money, the public purse. They're taking our tax dollars, wasting it, legal firms are getting rich to attack decent citizens, particularly ones who have stood up for themselves against a criminally corrupt system. So, it does not preclude an inquiry into systemic failures where legal practitioners misled the court and legal services commission fails to investigate credible complaints. Public submissions supported by evidence of misconduct should be invited. An inquiry would ensure accountability, reinforce public confidence, and uphold the integrity and fairness of our courts. Couldn't agree more. So this is definitely a petition we should definitely get on board with. It's one that's worthy of it. Unlike, you see some of these petitions, these fuckwits going, we should reduce the speed limit because somebody hit my cat. What the fuck was your cat doing out in the road for, you dumb bitch? Anyway, that's my 2 cents worth. Jump in on that one. I'll also chuck it on the Telegram page for those who don't get the comments properly. So you just go to North Queensland Freedom Network, or otherwise, I think it's @_freedom. I think what was that one? So I've got glare is getting me there. I've got a picture for this. So yeah, if you want to go to Telegram, @NQ_freedom, or just scan the little QR code if you want. Just pause the video if you need to and keep going. And otherwise, we're going to keep going. And you can get access to that one there. What else have we got? Letters from what the hell happened here? Is this another one of them? Here we go. Letters from Australia. Australia sues COVID vax class action is alive and moving forward. So after 3 years of the vaccine injured have one of Sydney's top silks fighting for them, and Dr. Melissa McCann couldn't be happier. Joy, hope, relief. Thousands of COVID vaccine injured Australians have been given new strength today at the Federal Court of Australia, discussed dates for their class action to proceed. And this is another North Queensland victory. Thanks to Heidi again for bringing this to my attention, because the doctor here is actually also from Ely Beach, which is just down the road by North Queensland standards, 3.5 hours. But anyway, it has been, that's just like a cruise through Melbourne City, isn't it? 3.5 hours. But it has been a long road for the bereaved. They were pushed aside by the government at every turn, and they struggled with repeated submissions in their attempts to get justice through the courts since April 2023. Again, another disgraceful display of how our government has failed, how the system has failed. But alas, we get there in the end. In April last year, Justice Anna Katzman gave their crowd-funded class action one last chance to overhaul its pleadings with a new legal team. Queensland GP Dr. Melissa McCann reinvigorated the case with Dominic Villa SC, who represented the injured at their case management hearing in the federal court today before Justice Nicholas Owens. Well done, Justice Nicholas Owens, for actually coming up with the right conclusion. The new Chambers barrister is leading Sydney Silk, who helped Queensland police and ambulance staff challenge the COVID vaccine mandates in 2022, as reported here, and they won. So well done. It's a wonderful, happy ending. There is more to this article if you wish. Obviously, the victims, if that's the right word, who lined up thinking they were doing the right thing. I can't be angry at them. And I guess that's one of the other big things about the psychology of everything that's happened. It's easy to get angry at everybody. Like, I mean, Street, for 25, 30 plus years, I've been angry at the whole fucking world because, only through random occurrences every now and then, when you come across one random who just happens to know what's really going on, you have a wonderful conversation, feel better about yourself, and then go back to the shithole that's your existence because everybody's a fucking drone. And all I can think is how selfish and how pissed off I am at everybody around me for being so fucking stupid that you can't see it, but that anger and that rage isn't going to help, and understanding that, look, they're all waking up in their own way and at their own time, I think is one of the most important things we need to work on. And cool, we got that start comment. So Jan Murphy responded, not sure about it, lol. Shashka said it amongst many other words I hadn't heard before. His objectives were words I've never heard before. Okay, his adjectives were words I've never heard before. Okay, cool. Sorry, I'm not familiar with that person either, but cool. Thanks for getting back to us. So, let's go. Where are we? So obviously old mate's really suffered, and they kind of, get into, how hard it is for him to get up and down the elevator. I love his t-shirt. Pfizer mRNA vax injured, established 2021, it's just ridiculous that we even had to get to this stage. And again, it's one of those things where I'll look at it and go, well, I seen it coming. It was pretty obvious what was going to happen, at least to me, and unfortunately, even though those who disagreed with me at the time are starting to come around now. So, Sips. I have to wonder, after all this shit, how many people will actually queue up and go for it when they try it again. Because they will. They're not very creative, these vile entities. So anyway, let's keep moving. Violence in Australian town after arrest of a man over girl's murder. Isn't that interesting, the way it's reported here at the BBC? I don't get into too many things, but warning, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander readers, this article contains references to someone who has died. So I guess, for those who practice that cultural thing, there's your warning. But it also tells us what the headline didn't tell us. There has been violence outside an Australian hospital where a man suspected of murdering a 5-year-old girl has been treated. And again, they don't tell you that he was Aboriginal himself. Very interesting the way they skirt around that stuff. Police said they were coming for, but also so did the general public, because they're like, well, if we find him first, shit's going to happen. So anyway, Jefferson Lewis was arrested late on Thursday night, local time, in Alice Springs after being seen by members of the local community and reportedly attacked. Video shows dozens of police gathered outside the town's hospital, some throwing projectiles. I like the way projectiles, as if, you hear the same thing as military ordnance, perhaps like bullets and bombs and things, throwing projectiles, it's fucking chucking rocks. Come on, let's get to the facts. With police using tear gas, so who's using projectiles exactly? But anyway, the body of the girl, who is identified only as Kaman Jai. I'm not sure how to say that. Apologies if I got it wrong. Little baby, for cultural reasons, was discovered earlier on Thursday. She had last been seen on Saturday. Payback is a term from traditional punishment under. So this is interesting. It actually is going to cover this. Australia's national broadcast ABC reported that some in the crowd outside the hospital yelled that Lewis needed to face payback and accused the police of protecting him. So, and this is another problem we have culturally here in Australia, obviously, that there are two sets of laws. There is the law of the land laid down by the Aboriginals, one that's kind of hard not to sort of go along with, particularly in a process such as this, and the, administrative law handed down by, those who do nothing for us in any way, shape or form that's generally good. Payback is apparently a term for traditional punishment under Aboriginal customary laws in Central Australia, usually carried out by elders to try and achieve harmony between Indigenous families and groups. But at the press conference, Magaludi Ariari man and Alice Springs local said that traditional payback was carefully constructed and carried out rather than seeking quick revenge. Bringing the word payback into the scenario just fuels violence, he said. There's a system set up here. Yeah, by who? And again, there has been a system set up. How much of it did you get to vote on? You get to vote on the asshole who dictates these things. It's an elective dictatorship. It's not really, something we get to partake in, is it? There's a system set up here where there is a person in custody and the Western rules will deal with that person. I like the Western rules. Yeah. So obviously, even the cop cars got set afire a lot. The Indigenous community not too pleased by the fact that, one of their own has been murdered. I mean, anybody who could do that to a little child in any way, shape or form, yeah, it's just horrible. It's fucking horrible, especially when you hear the stories about how, certain colonials would grab them by the ankles and just smash them into a tree. Like, fuck me. That's pretty fucked up. Anybody who could do that to a child is pure fucking evil, as far as I'm concerned. Pure fucking evil. But it's pretty hard to not agree with Aboriginal justice in this case. Let's face it. What are they going to do? They're going to lock the guy up. It's going to cost us shitloads of money because he's Aboriginal. All his representation will be paid for by the taxpayer. At the end of the day, the Aboriginal justice is, well, let's knock him on the head and he won't do it again. That's a bit of justice for the family, I guess, and it prevents, and from what I understand, this guy's been let out several times. I'm not sure if it gets into it here. I meant to go through this a little bit more. Like I said, I slept so much with pain. I haven't had a chance to sort of really go through things the way I really wanted to and be a little bit more prepared. So yeah, police the riot shields, rubber bullets, and everything to defend somebody. Apparently, allegedly, it's only alleged. We don't know, but it seems the community is pretty confident that he did it. As far as I understand, he's a repeat offender and has been allowed out to do it again. So the Western justice system has not really helped. It's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. Anyway, let's keep moving. I'm inclined to agree with Aboriginal justice in a lot of cases. I think it's one of the best ways we can potentially deal with our horrific government crisis. The cost of government. I'm more than happy to let the Indigenous people sort of sort out our government for the data. But anyway, here's something that was brought to my attention a little while ago. It's, as you can see, dated 2 weeks back. But hot data. Sorry, I can't remember. Somebody emailed it to me. So apologies for who emailed it to me. I think it was Gaz, sent this to me. But hot data, what the AI boom is doing to the land around us. So I want to talk about climate change. I want to talk about fucking, heating up the world. Well, AI is doing it better than any kind of crisis. I don't think carbon could possibly achieve what these guys are doing with AI. Nobody asked the people living within 6 miles of the AI data center whether they wanted to be warmer. Nobody asked the deer, the pollinators, the soil, or the migratory birds either. Nope, they didn't get a vote. What a surprise. Who gets, like I said, you get to tick a box once every few years, do as you're told, Stay in line, don't rock the boat, and buy what you sold. Thank you to Carcass for those lyrics. Cheers. Song was called Rock the Vote, I believe. A new study has put out numbers to something that was hidden in plain sight. As usual, researchers analyzed more than 6,000 AI hyperscale data centers worldwide. What they found is frightening. They discovered that after a facility begins operations, land surface temperatures in the surrounding area rise by an average of 3.6 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, let's see, what's that translate to in degrees Celsius? Oh, they've given me at 3 point. That's not what I wanted. Okay. How much is an increase? Got to ask the right question to get the right answer. It's still fucking giving me the wrong bloody answer. Oh, fuck me. Convert, increase. Oh, here we go. The search assistant's got it. Approximately 2 degrees. Okay. Thank you. All right. We got there. So In the worst cases, nearby temperatures climb by 16. Wow. So if that's 2, it'd probably be about 12. At a guess, just rounding off quickly in my head. I'll say about 12 degrees. That's huge. That's the difference between, well and truly the difference between whether you'll get in a pool or not. The warming doesn't stop at the fence line either. It radiates outwards. I mean, hence, the fundamental principles of thermodynamics. Second law of thermodynamics, I believe it is. Entropy. If you don't know what it is, look it up. I'm not giving you a science lesson right now. The warming doesn't stop at the fence line either. It radiates outward 6.2 miles, which is quite a significant distance. I'm guessing somewhere in the vicinity of about 10 kilometers. I'm only taking a wild stab. I'm not that good with my conversions. Anybody who does know, by all means, you can chuck it in the comments there. Affecting an estimated 340 million people globally. Researchers call it the data heat island effect, and they say it is real, consistent, and happening everywhere these facilities exist. And of course, again, with the fundamental principles of entropy, it's going to overall heat the globe itself. So you want to talk about global warming? Why aren't the leftists jumping up and down about that? Probably because they use the AI to filter out all the comments they don't like. Isn't that wonderful? So there's a huge article that really gets right into it. If you want to go further than that, I think the introduction kind of really sums up the point that I wanted to make here. I'm going to chuck that there for you to read if you wish to go further into depth of that. And it's also available on Telegram. There you go. Next, Thailand's fishing industry in big trouble after Middle East war doubles fuel prices. So if it's happening to Thailand's industry, it's probably happening to everything else. I mean, of course, stopping some certain Asian nations from fishing everything into extinction is possibly not a bad thing. I remember, I think it was a Rex Hunt Fishing World or something like that. I happened to see while walking past television, because I usually don't watch that kind of shit. But I think it was at somebody else's house, one of those people who just have to have the TV on, pumping crap, whether, anybody's watching it or not. It's like some sort of security blanket, I think. But anyway, I seen them, at a wet market, I think is what they call them in China or whatever, and they're selling fish there. And Rex holds it up and go, "This is too small to even put on my hook." Something to that effect. I'm paraphrasing, But yeah, they're happy to strip the ocean, in a lot of ways. So perhaps, the fact they've been priced out might actually be good for the fishing, for fish and the overall health of the ocean. But it does signify that obviously there's going to be a food crisis, perhaps, and there's something else that people are talking about quite a lot. He was forced jabs. Actually, here's a good time to perhaps go into a video, because I think I need a bit of a stretch. It's a bit sore at the moment. So give me one moment, please. Probably best to do it by words. I think I had a video on this. I sworn I did. This is one of those videos that ended up in the wrong spot. Well, that's a good one. We should bring that in anyway. Let's stop sharing because I can't see. Well, while we were on computers and AI, this is a good place to do this. So I'm going to chuck this in while I find what I was looking for.
AI thing, how would I be able to tell?
Here, man. Here.
Oh, is that? Sorry, can you hold that up?
It's not AI.
Actually, I should say, obviously it says that they're spotting a deep fake using one sentence. So obviously, it's am I talking to a real person online? I mean, the image itself looks a bit dodgy, but just listen to the way he talks. Actually, it's really, really good. And yeah, you got to outsmart things. It's not always what they say; it's what they won't say. Just like a politician, really.
I think, how would I be able to tell?
Here, man. Here.
Oh, is that? Sorry, can you hold that up?
It's not AI.
Can you?
Yeah, absolutely.
But that's
like our director.
Oh, I see. I thought it would be your name.
No. That's our director. We have a multiple. You see all of them here.
Oh, I see.
It's all running.
But You know, is there
What's
not
going
some
on?
way of telling whether you're real or not? Can you like hold up 3 fingers in front of your face or anything?
Oh, come on, that's too much.
Oh, you don't want to do that
Well, I'll do that here.
in front of your face?
What do you mean? I mean, that's too much. Come on, Ronnie.
Why would it affect the AI if it was in front of your face?
Well, not at all. But
Can
I
you
don't
do
know.
that
It's too
then?
much to ask somebody.
Well,
Well, I'm just
make
doing
sure
it.
you're not AI. Is that unreasonable? I mean, can you do that in front of your face?
Well, I think that that's too much to ask somebody. Don't you think that?
No, I don't think it is. If I'm making sure you're not AI, I think that's a reasonable thing to ask. Can you hold up 3 fingers in front of your face?
Well, I think that, well, is that enough?
No, it's not in front of your face.
Well, that's too much, don't you think?
Yes, it is, because, you know, if you were real, you would put up 3 fingers in front of your face. Yes, I thought so.
Says it all, doesn't it? Says it all. Simple little thing. Can you hold 3 fingers up in front of your face? So for now, that's a reasonable test. You know, to be honest, even when he said 3 fingers, he only held up 2. You know, he goes like this sort of thing. You know, like that's 2 fingers. You know, like unless you're stupid enough to think a thumb is a finger, but it's not. You know, this is the opposable thumb. You know, that's a thumb. I know in some cultures they only have digits, so they don't separate those things. They don't even separate fingers from toes, you know, in some cultures, which is a very interesting concept, I thought. But anyway, that was enough to stretch things out a little bit. Fuck, I'm in pain today. Fuck. Anyway, I told you I wasn't going to swear, but yeah, things happen. No, go away. It's not what I wanted. I wanted this one. So I couldn't find the video. I thought I managed to grab this video, which would have been easier, you know. But anyway, actually, it's not a video. It's about bloody horse racing. Who gives it Rhodes rectum? Anyway, he was forced. Jackson Warren blames COVID vaccine for Shane Warne's death as he reveals his long-held belief. I think it was anybody with a brain's long-held belief, you know, while we weren't laughing about the history of Shane Warne and his, you know, hotel prostitution, which was possibly, you know, one of those things where, you know, they set him up and get the videos so they can, you know, drag him over the coals if you don't comply. You know, typical sort of Epstein sort of scenario. So, you know, Jason Warne has spoken out about his belief that the COVID vaccine played a role in his father, Shane Warne's sudden death in 2022. 26-year-old media personality and poker player made the claim on the podcast Two Worlds Collide. With military veteran Sam Bamford, where he said he believes the vaccine may have contributed to the fatal heart attack. Well, I'm pretty confident that that's what did it too, you know. But isn't it interesting? They go poker player, so we need to say he's a gambling addict, you know. So again, this is the defamation they're trying to do, and you can see it's very subtle the way they do it. And it was on a podcast, you know, and oh my god, a military veteran was with him, so we're gonna drag that guy through the coals too. So this is the kind of media hit piece sort of stuff, because even though they're coming out and telling us, you know, just enough to try and buy back some views here from the lamestream media, they're still on the payroll. So, you know, they've got to do it in a certain way. Come on, mate. Come on, mainstream media. When are you going to stop taking money from the vile pieces of shit who have done this? So anyway, and oh my God, he's got an Australian flag behind him. Quick, must be a racist. Get rid of him. An autopsy confirmed he died of natural causes. Yeah, because you can trust these things, you know, like we've seen the report. We've seen what happened, you know, like what did they say to Rage Against the Machine, for example? I would have thought Rage Against the Machine would be the first one to stand up for fucking people, but no, they bent the knee. Like, what did they show them? They show them the people on the grassy knoll and go, look, we took out a fucking president. We'll take you out too. Don't you fucking worry about it. Yeah. So you got to wonder. So look, at the end of the day, he's come out and said it. What so many of us have been thinking for a long time. Sky News at least reported it, but again, Sky News pushed the jab too. So my faith in you is pretty low. In fact, look, I might not need the the pickaxe and a mining helmet to find my faith for Sky News, like I would most everyone else I've lost faith in. But, you know, I'm definitely going to need a shovel. Crime scene declared as Gold Coast police investigate partner of Anastasia, piece of shit, also known as Palachuk. And somehow they got Palaszczuk out of that mixed match of letters. But, you know, look, I know to speak shitty English, reasonably well English, and, you know, I'm working on German and a bit of Latin. But I still can't wrap my head around that. Anyway, police have searched the apartment of prominent surgeon Vahid Raza Abid. Now, she's a leftist, so, you know, and one of the most vile human beings I think has ever walked the earth, in my personal opinion. And I see this guy's name and I instantly think, shouldn't he be on a terrorist watch list or something? You know, is that racist to think that, you know? But I noticed throughout the course of all the lamestream articles, they don't give you that information. They just give you his name. You have to fill in the blanks for yourself, but we'll get there. The long-term partner of Queensland Premier Anastasia, piece of shit. As a part of an ongoing investigation, officers, including forensic specialists, attended Abid's beachfront unit. You know, it's amazing what you can achieve when you're in the right places in the world. At Burleigh Heads on the Gold Coast at about 11 a.m. on Thursday, where they were seen examining the property and removing items. I'm pretty sure I got the video for this one, surely. No, I downloaded it. Where it went, fuck goes. God knows. Here we go. Pelican caught out. Oh no, it's a pelican caught out. Where's the other pelican? What? Don't tell me. I have a feeling some of these videos may have been converted in a format that's not coming out. Let me just check that. I love the way everything's coded in different codings, you know. And as much as I hate the idea of socialism and communism and all that, wouldn't it be nice if there was some sort of universal format where everything just fucking worked? It'd be really nice. It doesn't seem to be there. All right. That one will need to come in anyway. Oh my God. Leave that, open that. We'll need that in a minute anyway. Doesn't matter. All right. So authorities stressed Palachuk is not believed to be involved and may not even have any knowledge of the raid. So, I mean, whether she has knowledge of the raid or not has absolutely nothing to do with whether she knows about it or is involved in the alleged crime. I mean, that is a nothing burger. You know, that's a sentence written by an idiot in an attempt to try and subvert facts. You know, we're trying to protect, you know, the piece of shit. You know, why? She's scum. You know, the development comes as Palachuk undertakes a national publicity campaign for her memoir. Who the fuck would buy that? Finding My Way to the Jail Cell should be the completion of that sentence, which has launched earlier this week. She's a criminal as part of the rest of the COVID cohort that she should be in a jail cell. You know, Palachuk went ahead with her book launch in Rabina as scheduled later that evening after the raid. So, you know, she's still worried about her book and went ahead with it that evening after, you know, her partner or whatever was raided. There was a video, and I was going to show it, where she was asked, "Oh, are you going to marry him?" And, you know, she kind of laughs like a 5-year-old girl, and, you know, we're happy. Why would we change anything? And look, it's probably the only time I'd actually agree with the Palachuk on anything is like, well, do you need to get married to be happy? Well, I mean, just because everybody else done it, why should I? You know, that's always been my stance. Like, you know, honey, we got a really good thing going on. You know, a wonderful relationship and all. You know, what would make it better? Let's involve a corrupt government and a pedophile religion. That'll solve all our problems. We need their sanctity. We need the approval of absolute criminals before we can actually really love each other. Yep, I'm sold. Ask whether she planned to marry. Oh, there it is. And marriage was on the card. She replied, we're very happy. Why would we? Why would we change it? I am inclined to agree with that fundamental statement, although it probably goes against, a lot of people's fundamental beliefs because you're still tied up in what you were told as a child. But anyway, we're very happy. Thank you. Queensland Police have not provided further details. So they may have since I looked this up. Actually, it says the 3rd of May, although I looked it up yesterday. So they've obviously changed this article. This article has been changed and altered. I would say I should have grabbed a shot of it 2 days ago when I seen it. Or was it yesterday when I seen it? I can't remember. I think it was yesterday. But now it says 3rd of May. I looked this up yesterday, this article. So they've altered something. Observation is wonderful. Here we go. Friday, 1st of May, 2 days ago. Partner of former Queensland charged with rape. ABC went for it, which is really strange because I would have thought left-wing fucking media would have been fucking, a little bit hesitant like Channel 7 was, Channel 7, I think they're a little bit more on the payroll of the vile left these days, especially seeing tonight they'll be airing a whopping pile of horse shit. Actually, did I get a video of that? Darren sent it to me. Have a look at this. Actually, I found that video. I just mislabeled it. Here we go. Here's the Pelachuk video. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen. I didn't label it. I should have put the word Pelachuk in front of it. Then I know it was her. Here we go.
And 7 News can reveal the partner of former Premier Anastasia Palaszczuk is the centre of a police investigation unfolding on the Gold Coast. Amanda Abate is at Burleigh with the exclusive details. Amanda, officers have raided Dr Reza Adib's unit.
Well, that's right. Good afternoon, Sam. We can bring you those pictures this afternoon showing about half a dozen officers, including forensics police here at the Norfolk building in Burleigh, searching the beachfront apartment of Dr Reza Adib. Items have been removed and seized. At one stage, officers even searching inside a barbecue on the balcony. Now, the prominent Brisbane-based surgeon has not been charged, so we cannot disclose what the investigation relates to at this stage. But we want to be clear, his long-term girlfriend, Anastasia Palaszczuk, is not believed to be involved and may not even be aware of the raids, which have only just wrapped up this afternoon. It is extraordinary timing for the former Premier, who is in the middle of a PR blitz launching her book, a memoir titled The Politics of Being Me. She spoke to 7 News earlier in the week on Tuesday at the launch when she was asked about her relationship with Dr Reza Adib. Take a listen.
Yes.
Do you plan on marrying your partner?
We're very happy. Why would we change it?
Married to the past?
Sorry? No. We're very happy. Thank you.
Well, Ms Palaszczuk is actually due to host another event to launch her book tonight on the Gold Coast. As you can imagine, her publicists are right now likely scrambling to deal with this breaking news. We'll bring you the very latest, Sam, coming up in the news at 6.
Amanda Abate at Burleigh. Thank you.
So, hang on. Not that video was really all that informative, but just it's there. So, anyway, we get to the idea. So, I think I actually had to look at something different. Was it ABC said it? Sorry, I should probably bring that back up so you can see what I'm doing. Yeah, so ABC says he's facing 3 counts of rape, 1 sexual assault, and 2 of deprivation of liberty relating to alleged offending against a woman in her 30s at Burleigh Heads on March the 30th. So you'd imagine being a high-profile thing that, they would have their ducks in a line. But that said, I've seen Queensland Police make an absolute meal of their cases on many occasions because they're not very good at their jobs, which is pretty sad, to say the least. We've seen what they've done to people like Heidi and the people that she's tried to help out as well. False allegations, bullshit. That they come up with just to attack, and I've personally been there in the jury, which I can't talk much about outside of the fact that I've seen some horrific police work, horrific job by the police prosecution. They are really not that good, and they usually end up in jobs like legal advisory for, say, the Townsville City Council, for example. Isn't it interesting? They hire ex-police prosecutors who are basically just there to hound people into submission as opposed to actually come up with real evidence and real solutions, which is very sad. Weaponizing the legal system like that is disgraceful. But I have to applaud the Queensland Police for actually picking the time to do it right as she's launching a book. Is it coincidence, or is there a malicious act there because they're all dirty because that piece of shit made them get a life-threatening jab as well? Who knows? Is there a malicious intent? Fuck. Wow. Only anyone could question. But the point, as I was saying, so where did this guy come from? The noticer points out, first word, Iranian surgeon. Who are we at war with? Iran. Isn't it interesting? Isn't that interesting? Is it just well timed? And at what point, as much as I like to see somebody who's caused so much suffering get their just desserts, like piece of shit, I have to take that vengeance and that aggression out of the scenario and ask another question, which is, the guy's Iranian. Has this been orchestrated by something else? Even more sinister, perhaps, by another religious construct, perhaps. Isn't it interesting that an Iranian surgeon, the boyfriend of a full-blown leftist politician that we all love to hate, happens to be arrested around this time while we're at war with Iran? Just think about it. Just think about it. That's all I asked. He's accused of rape. But look, for the sake of her sales, she may cut him away, because I know that, it might be a bit heartless and weird for people who have a heart and an understanding and all that. But these people don't think like the rest of us. What they consider happiness is probably more like a really good situation where they can both make a lot of money out of each other, as opposed to anything else, And let's face it. I mean, if you woke up next to that every morning, you'd be looking for something else too, wouldn't you? But anyway, that aside, I'm like, well, we know she's a criminal. So I chucked into the search, Palaszczuk destroys evidence, and the search assistant comes up. Documents were destroyed by Anastasia Palaszczuk's government in a context of integrity issues. And it's because I remember these things happening. It's amazing what a memory can do, which has raised significant concerns about transparency and accountability. This secrecy has led to ongoing investigations and questions regarding the government's integrity, as cited by the ABC. All right. So we move on to, this shit, which points that out. So here's the article that's in that.
ISIS is doggedly stalking the Premier, dominating Parliament for a second straight day. The opposition accusing the Palaszczuk government of trying to bury secret reports.
Minister. Following the growing paper trail...
Are you finished?
The opposition only getting started.
Does the Queensland government...
It's fucking hard to watch these bloody idiots in their face nappies, isn't it? I mean, you just see them, you're like, wow. And again, it's another stunning example of how much they must believe their own bullshit, Again, and this is the fight-fly response. These people are in fear. If not, they're really good actors who are going along with the stupidity, thinking that it's somehow saving them. If I didn't already think a lot of politicians already suffered from some sort of brain damage, I kind of might assume that this is where they got a lot of their cognitive impediments.
Alter independent reports. Independent reports. Does the Queensland government alter independent reports?
If the member has any evidence, he should raise that evidence.
Order! Pointing to two versions of a report by former state archivist turned integrity whistleblower Mike Summerall, who investigated the Mark Bailey private email scandal in 2017.
Who is altering independent reports?
These matters have been referred to an independent QC to look at these matters independently.
The final report was only recently released publicly by the government.
Has the Minister requested the altering of this independent report?
A matter that was fully investigated by the independent watchdog and was closed.
The opposition scathing about names being removed.
Ministers Miles and De Brenny, these references were deleted.
The independent investigation by QC is still underway. The Premier insists the findings will eventually be made public.
And that report will be released.
But proving it's not all serious, attention turned to the Premier's social media.
When you're smiling...
Oh, you're just jealous because it's about 80,000 views, Mr. Speaker.
Order!
You're trying to get a couple.
No gloves, but the masks are off. Marlena Wapp, 7 News.
Masks are off. I can't help but feel the only thing these people do is wear masks. They're all fake. They're all frauds. I wouldn't trust any of them with fucking. I wouldn't trust them with a cutlery set. Let's face it. You know, they're all a menace to sobriety at the very least. Definitely a menace to society. So, you know, is it just finally we're getting something going on here? But, you know, speaking of shitty politicians, you know, we got a shitty politician here by, you know, it was Tony Mooney, our former mayor, you know, who no doubt presided over a lot of the tragedies that Townsville's suffering and feeling the pain from now. And then finished off by scum like Jenny Hill. And we know that Nick DeMetto has been installed to maintain the status quo and make sure everything keeps rolling along in the same corrupt corridor, because, fuck, we couldn't have someone like Troy Thompson come in there. No, an independent. Oh, no, we need somebody we can control. We're going to get some fake independents in there, you know. Let's get some people that have been working nicely to make sure that nothing changes, you know. So anyway, let's bring that in. So I did see the Townsville Bulletin horrific excuse for journalism, where it basically said nothing. It just grabbed quotes straight out of this video. So why would you bother even trying to demonstrate such horrific journalism, which is just the stock standard for the Townsville Bulletin? Utter shit is another. They should just call it the Townsville shit, because it's the quality of what we get. So why would you bother looking at their horrific journalism when you can just go straight to the source? And where is it? Can't find it. Should be here. I'm not having a good day, ladies and gentlemen. Very sorry. Let's do a Malcolm Roberts one while I dig it up.
Coming back to 2 points you raised, separate points. Ms. Pete, you mentioned Australia assesses the vaccines. Do they do actual testing, or what is the method of assessment?
Senator.
Trials?
Yes. I'd have to throw to Professor Lawler about the assessment that the vaccines do go through. But from my knowledge, we don't assess the vaccine. What we do is rely on evidence and data to ensure their safety. So, but I'll hand to Professor
Where does that
Lawler.
evidence? Well, okay. Where does that evidence and data come from?
So, Senator Nick Henderson, First Assistant Secretary of Medicines Regulation Division. So, we have a process where we rigorously evaluate submissions provided by sponsors of these vaccines.
The drug companies?
The pharmaceutical manufacturers, who then
submissions
sponsors,
from the drug companies?
Yeah, which we require a significant amount of evidence to support our assessments of the safety, efficacy and quality of those vaccines before they are able to be marketed and supplied in Australia.
So let me understand this. I go back to March 21, I think it was. I asked the previous head of the TGA, Professor Skerritt, or Dr. Skerritt, what testing was done in this country on the COVID injections. He said none. They relied on the FDA. At the time he said that, it was after the FDA had admitted they did no testing themselves. They relied on Pfizer. You're telling me you're doing the same thing? Okay.
Sorry, Senator, I might just jump in there. No, we have moved all the COVID-19 vaccines are now what we call fully registered, so they have been assessed on a full suite of evidence to support.
Sorry, I had to stop and laugh. Hang on, let me catch my breath. Oh, full suite of evidence. Oh, that's good. That's good. Yeah. All right, let's continue.
Safety, quality and efficacy of those vaccines. For COVID-19 vaccines as well, we did have a program in place where we did do batch testing of all vaccines in the TGA laboratories before they were able to be supplied in Australia.
So if I might add to that, if I may, Senator, I note your use of the word testing. The role of the regulator and these regulators, this regulatory practice is standard worldwide, is that we undertake an unbiased and objective assessment of the evidence that is presented to us, particularly
entity, the supplier.
that was part of the rest of my answer, Senator. So I'm going through the process that we follow. That while for the most part that is supplied by the sponsor who is seeking registration of the product, it does undergo.
So there you have it. From the most part, they rely on the evidence given to them by the manufacturer of the product. Of course, they use different words. They say things like sponsor. Oh, it's sponsor. What is this? Like a McDonald's logo on a fucking footy jersey? Sponsor? Piss off. They're not sponsoring shit because their own friggin' wallets.
An appropriate assessment by our own experts to determine that the size of the sample, the controls that are placed, the primary endpoints, the outcomes, the adverse events, all of those elements of the study indicate that the risk-benefit analysis is positive. So the process that we undertake is similar to others. Now, as Mr Henderson's highlighted, during COVID we had a provisional registration pathway. This was during a time, as you would recall, when the risk-benefit of providing a provisional authorisation for that vaccine was high. Since then, we have undertaken a transition of that.
Notice he says the word whatever it was high, and it quickly runs right over the top, because he knows that is, bullshit.
Providing a provisional authorisation for that vaccine was high. Since then, we have undertaken a transition of that vaccine through to a full market authorisation. There are other mechanisms for assessing the evidence, and obviously in this instance we can also rely on the real-world evidence that the overwhelming benefit, the risk to benefit is positive given the number of lives saved by the administration of the COVID vaccine when compared to the incidence of adverse events.
Mr Lawler, before I ask my last
Professor
question.
Lawler, sorry, Senator.
Professor Lawler, you said a minute ago on another answer, Australian disease patterns forget overseas. Now you're saying they're similar to others. So our testing is our assessment is similar to others. You don't do testing.
Yeah, I actually said neither of those things, Senator. I certainly didn't say that we should forget other countries. What I said is that we make our own vaccine schedules based on the demography, the epidemiology, the disease patterns and so forth of Australia. We certainly have a mind to others. I mean, just as an example, the disease patterns in the northern part of the world circulate to the southern part of the world some 6 months later. So we certainly have to be mindful of what's going on in the rest of the world. We don't forget what's going on there. What I then said was that there are consistent, if not identical, approaches to regulatory decision-making around the world. There is significant positive collaboration and work sharing between regulators so that we can know what the appropriate practices are, and particularly horizon scanning, so that we know what's coming up. But I would highlight that the answer that I gave actually went to how we regulated during COVID, which was different to other countries. Other countries undertook what's called an emergency use authorisation. We undertook a process of provisional registration, which was an abbreviated and expedited process that did not lift from sponsors the requirement to provide appropriate evidence, particularly real-world evidence, and then the appropriate, I guess, more fulsome transition to full market authorisation thereafter.
I can only go by what your predecessor said. They relied on the FDA. Dr. Pete, sorry.
Yes, thank you, Senator.
Dr. Pete, you said the childhood injections are free.
Yes.
They're actually paid for in $750,000 by the taxpayer.
Yes, that's correct, Senator. What I should have said is they're provided free to people who are eligible for those vaccines, but yes, they are fully funded by the government.
Taxpayer?
Yes.
There's no such thing as government money. It's all taxpayer. Thanks, Chair.
There you go. Another reminder to the government that there is no such thing as government funded. You even got to tell the government these basic things. It's absolutely mind-blowing. It's some simple things like, no, it's taxpayer money. They're like, again, just the changing of one word, one simple term, just to distort your view of how things work. So I figured out what's been going on. It seems that one of the ways I was downloading things was failing. So as a result, I haven't been getting the videos, which is why I can't find them. But it's all right. Here we go. So this is the board meeting of the Townsville Hospital, which I have to say, as having been a patient there, is utterly disgraceful. It is available on YouTube, where you can go and check out the full thing if you want to sit through the whole thing. But what I'm interested in is that the culture in the place is so fucking bad that it kind of ends this way. So we're just going to sort of get up to about here. So it's a 10 minutes video, about 10 minutes. We'll just give you the last few minutes, because what's important is that these mob all get up and walk out on this guy after calling him a well-polished politician or something to that effect. Because let's face it, this guy's slippery as a greased up pole.
Is here for this group, individually and collectively, to be involved. And the board had requested the chief executive to undertake that work, and it's now on. And excuse me, it's now underway. And I'm not going to sit here and say I'm now going to intervene and come in over the top and change that. I will take it back to the chief executive. I certainly agree with some of the key feedback that I'm hearing. I've admitted that today, and I think there's a lot of work to be done.
But the chief executive didn't commission the Hoffman Reid. You did.
I beg your pardon?
Oh, sorry, did you not tell the chief executive to commission Hoffman Reid?
Did you not listen? Are you deaf?
So, no. Let's get this, because it's being recorded. This is really good.
Are you seriously deaf?
This is really good. But you're saying that this was commissioned by the CEO.
Excuse me. I said to you a couple of times tonight that the board does not have an operational decision. No, we did not employ Hoffman Reid. Now,
you did not ask the CEO to commission Hoffman Reid to do this survey. That's what you're saying.
I have said to you what the position is, and that remains the case.
What you're saying is you did not ask, just say yes or no, you did not ask the CEO to commission Hoffman Reid.
I'm telling you what the position is.
I don't want to know the position. I know your position. I'm just asking you to give me a straight answer, because unfortunately, you're a polished politician and I'm a bloody commission, and I'm not good. Please. So I'm no good at landing a politician, because politicians can say that. Just answer the question. Did you ask the CEO to commission Hoffman Reid? Yes or no?
Excuse me, if you don't mind. You talk about values. It would do you well to understand how to apply them in your own personal behaviour. So
low blow.
Because what you're doing, Tony, is I think we've been respectful. We're just trying to get a straight answer.
So, all right. Well, let me give you an answer. Right?
Fine. Okay. Thank you, everybody. If everyone's had enough, I think.
So if anyone else wants to stay here and ask any other questions, I'm more than happy to do that. Right, no problems.
Yep, another big problem in the world, another big problem here in Townsville. Really, that hospital is a disgrace. It's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. It gets worse every time. I was shoved out the door within about an hour of having been forcibly woken up after a procedure. Had some surgery done. I was forcibly awakened, doped up, and sent out home straight away. To which what my doctor said, that was absolutely criminal, because anything could have happened, and not so many. The list of things that could have gone wrong, I should have been there under observation for a lot longer. That's a real life experience of being in the Townsville City Hospital. Another real life experience of the Townsville City Hospital. I broke my toe. On the phone. Not paying attention. Clipped my toe on the side of the bed. Snapped, and I'm looking at it going, oh fuck, I broke my toe. That really hurt. Yep, it's sticking out sideways. It's flopping around. It's proper broken. Go to the Townsville Hospital. I had to get a friend to come pick me up, because I was here alone with the kids at the time. A friend took me down there. Get down there. After sitting around for about half an hour, 40 minutes, they've gone, oh, there's nothing really we can do. We've got a really long wait. Just go home and see the doctor in the morning. Thanks, guys. So I went home, seen the doctor in the morning. Doctor said, oh, nah, that looks all right. That's not broken. I'm like, excuse me, I know what a broken toe looks like. I've fixed them before. That toe's broken. Yeah, but it's not, it doesn't look like mate, if the patient is someone you're supposed to listen to, toes fucking broken. You know, it was flopping around. I put that back together, you know, because the hospital didn't help me. And now you're attempting to not help me. Oh, well, if you're going to be insistent about it, I'll get you an x-ray. Thank you. And I look forward to you eating your words when I come back. Sure enough, went and got the x-ray. The attendant at the x-ray thing was kind enough to let me have a look at it. You know, I looked at it and going, fuck, I set that pretty bloody straight. He's going, you did that by yourself. You should open a clinic. I'm going, fuck me, man. Can't even get a doctor to believe me. Do you think anybody else is going to let me treat them? Fuck me. You know, but, you know, I loved walking into the doctors the next day because I thought, I'm done with doctors. I'm in too much pain to deal with this shit. I'll go in the next day. You know, went in the next day to get me medical certificates and all that shit. And, you know, so apology yet? Oh, what did the attending physician tell you? Of course, I wasn't going to tell him that he did. You know, no. I told you yesterday and you refused to believe me. So apologize. Yes, you're right. I'm sorry. You know, just as well I can fix myself, hey, because if fucking I would depend on you lot, I'd be fucked. You know, between the hospital and the doctors, they're all fucking useless. You know, I wasn't seeing my proper good doctor at the time. It was one of them third world imports, you know, that don't know shit from a shovel. Frustrating as all hell. Absolutely frustrating. But anyway, I found a couple of things that escaped my attention earlier. But anyway, it's thanks to a former mayor of Townsville is the reason that our health system seems to be in decay to the extent that even the board members can't stand dealing with the guy. What a tosspot. What a tosspot. And, you know, his son's a councillor. Wow. Could you trust him? Any wonder our council's fucked? Any wonder the town's falling apart, you know? I mean, you know, what was the first thing Nick DeMetto said? Oh, I'm going to get in there and fix the roads. Well done, dickhead. I haven't seen you do it yet, you fucking idiot. We all know you're there because you were installed. Let's face it, you know. You're not there to do any good work. I haven't seen you do any good work. Fucking good at taking photos. Very good at posing. Bit of a poser, I guess, you know. When you're 2 foot nothing with a Napoleon syndrome, I guess you got to try and make yourself look as good as you can. Anyway. Where were we? All right. So we did have a segue with some medical stuff. So let's continue down the path. And again, it's another perfect example where even government officials are coming out saying, we're going to need some new conspiracy theories, ladies and gentlemen, because the old ones came true. I mean, those of us, you know, who have been awake for a long time, this does not come any surprise to, but it's just nice to get a pat on the back once in a while and say, yep, you were right again.
These allegations first surfaced about Dr. Fauci and the other minions,
Lorenz and Daisy,
and we were all told that it's a conspiracy theory and we're all a bunch of nuts. We now know we're going to have to get some new conspiracy theories because the old ones turned out to be true. I've read enough to know that these gentlemen, these three, one indicted, 2 unindicted co-conspirators that will be indicted, they're in a lot of trouble. And it looks to me like, as at least is pleaded, that they were trying to hide the facts, that they were conducting gain-of-function research in China using American taxpayer dollars, and that they tried to hide it. And they imply in the emails, I don't know if it's true or not, that Dr. Fauci knew all about it.
There you go. Apparently he knew all about it. I don't know if it's true or not, but he seems to have known all about it. Isn't that interesting? I wish that thing had just doesn't operate the way I would set this up. You know, I think a lot of programmers would benefit from my knowledge in a lot of cases when it comes to figuring a lot of this shit out. But anyway, let's continue. So there we go. We all know Fauci's a crook. We all know he's a criminal. You only have to read the book, you know, The Real Anthony Fauci to see that, you know, and further have a look at Carrie Mullis's book, a man who conveniently died just a few months before COVID 1984 after calling out Fauci for decades. So I highly recommend people go and read those books. Wonderful. Carrie Mullis's book was called something about naked and surfing. I do have a copy here, but or surfing in the minefield or something. Something to that effect. Dancing naked in the minefield. That's what it was called. There you go. I knew there was naked and surfing. Shit. It was dancing. Sorry. Dancing Naked in the Minefield is the name of his book. I highly recommend getting a hold of that. That was one of the first things I read during COVID 1984. As soon as I heard the word PCR test, I'm like, right, what the fuck is PCR? And it led me to Carrie Mullis, and I seen he had a book. I'm like, well, I better look this up. And he conveniently died, at that time. So there it is, Dancing Naked in the Minefield. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And another man who can point to, scientifically, from the, not scientifically, a scientific mind, who can point to things such as astrology as being more reliable than most other things. It's fucking brilliant, very good book. Highly recommend it. Go and check that out. But look, let's face it, there's a whole bunch of propaganda and shit getting around at the moment. So let's have a look at the current anti-Semitism report.
Report into anti-Semitism is out, handing down 14 recommendations to the government in the wake of the Bondi terror attack. It finds funding for counter-terrorism had actually declined in the lead-up, despite a 31% boost to intelligence agencies overall. Mark, there seems to be a mismatch here. So where did that extra money go, and why wasn't more of it directed to stopping attacks like this?
Well, the Royal Commissioner said that she'd be doing some more work over the course of the rest of the Commission on this question of funding, particularly in such an unstable environment. But as you said, funding to our intelligence agencies has climbed over recent years.
Now, I just want to point something out. I didn't notice this the first time I listened to it, but when you hear him talk, the crows are going, fuck, fuck, fuck in the background. Have a listen. That's very important.
Of funding, particularly in such an unstable environment. But
now that's important. That's a sign, for those of you who learned how to read nature, that is very important.
As you said, funding to our intelligence agencies has climbed over recent years. Obviously, she found, I think, the core finding and the core reason for this interim report was whether there was urgent or immediate action the governments, including state governments, should take to change the way in which our counter-terrorism agencies were set up and operated. And she found that there was not any need for immediate action. But importantly, she did provide some recommendations to the Commonwealth and to state governments as well about ways in which that function could be enhanced. And yesterday the Prime Minister said we had accepted all of those recommendations. I saw Premier Minns, obviously given this was in New South Wales, Premier Minns also accepting those recommendations, so we'll get busy about implementing them.
Yeah, Jane, she also said that Jewish Australians are now at greater risk than before the Bondi attack. Do you think there needs to be a look at where this money's going?
Oh, absolutely. The 14 recommendations are going to be profoundly important. I'm glad the government has accepted them. It was a damning indictment on the preparedness of the Albanese government in a time of threat and crisis. I mean, the Prime Minister couldn't even hold a meeting correctly. He called the wrong group of people around a table before he got twice, not once, but twice, before he got the right group of people to deal in response to the Bondi tragedy. He said that the report said that the National Security Committee was not match fit. Well, that's a terrible indictment on the Labor government and Anthony Albanese himself. I'm hoping that there is going to be a very quick response to these recommendations. We haven't been fully briefed on the ones that have been left confidential.
Some are confidential.
I'm hoping that will happen today.
Yep. Are we going to get those, or are they going to remain confidential, Mark?
Well, my understanding is that they were deliberately kept confidential by the Royal Commissioner because of national security considerations.
Okay. Thank you very much. We'll see you next week. Here's Sherbo.
Sorry, love the way that fucking, useless twat twists and turns things, and then they instantly go, well, actually, this is what's going on. So, yeah, it's a joke. It's amazing the way they can take absolute truth and turn it into a fiction at the same time. But let's get into panic stations because, the lamestream and the lamestream government themselves are in panic mode. So let's have a look at some panic from the Liberals.
I'm very concerned that the identity politics of division that we've seen on the left is creeping into the right now. And I was very critical of Pauline's comments, dividing Australians into different groups, saying that, suggesting that they're no good in certain groups of Australians. I totally reject that. I totally reject that. We are all Australians. What unites us as a country is more than what divides us. Even when we have these robust debates, we have a wonderful country with wonderful people from all different backgrounds, religions, etc. And I'm sorry, I worry about where Pauline would take this country to an area of more division. We've got to unite as a country. I'll just be out in the ground, putting the case for why the record of achievement we've got as a party in delivering hospitals, in delivering roads, in delivering infrastructure for regional areas is what Farah needs. And I'll just make this one more point about One Nation. Pauline has been in politics for more than double the time.
Love the way he bounces on his toes. It's fairly funny. Let's watch that again. I love watching these little mannerisms.
Needs. And I'll just make this one more point about One Nation. Pauline has been in politics for more than double the time I've been. And I struggle to point to a single dam, single road, single hospital that Pauline has delivered.
Why? She's never been in a position of, a majority government that would let her do anything. Because the most important thing for Liberal and Labor to maintain their supremacy is to never allow a minor party to actually get anything through that they could put their name to. Because if they could, then you might see them actually achieve something. And they're not allowed to do that, and you'll see the same thing said about the Katter Party. And I have probably, less faith in the Katter Party sometimes than I do One Nation. I don't have a lot of faith in any of these politicians because they'll all tell you exactly what you want to hear in order to get your vote. But that said, you can clearly see they're in panic stations and because generally the Liberal Party hasn't gone so hard. Like a lot of the time Canavan's kind of worked with Pauline and things like that. But now that he's running the show, and he's stepped up the next rung, quick time to change my story. How credible is the guy now? He's changed his tune, but of course, his tune is liberal. That's the first and foremost. So we can't say he's changed it too much, really. But I can't bear to watch any more of that. While we're on panic station, actually, while we're in that mode, there was something I wanted to deal with here. Let's sorry. I'm going to bring the right page back up. Get rid of that because I don't want that there. So I didn't get to finish off my Palachuk thing, so I want to come back to Palachuk. Sorry, it's a little bit all over the place. Normally I'm a little bit more organized, but it's truth. Pain. It's not serving me well today. So, yeah, we've got a hot, dodgy boyfriend from Iran, clearly not credible because she's, been covering things up, for many. And there was even a rumor getting around, although, that article we showed earlier demonstrated that she seems to have been manipulating data. It's also been said that she went in there and had, her cronies raid people who were investigating her to make sure that she couldn't be exposed for it. So it's pretty dodgy stuff here. What I meant to go on to before that was out of the wrong order. It was supposed to go here because she might be looking for a new boyfriend. And I think this guy might have the kind of characteristics she's looking for. France, it's an Afghan, refugee, possibly, somebody from Afghanistan facing trial for raping goats and sheep. So, I mean, if a doctor who rapes this, women is not to her palate, perhaps she might be a little bit more interested in an Afghanian guy who likes to rape goats and sheep. Yep, I didn't write this article. It comes from the European Conservative. A 19-year-old Afghan. So it's a young fella, come on. He's a bit of a cougar, this one here for you, love. In the cougar scenario, I got that out of context, but you get what I'm saying. A 19-year-old Afghan is set to stand trial in France after being accused of repeatedly abusing goats and sheep near Marseille. Well, it's probably Marseille, I'm guessing. Typical French, too many letters, and they don't know what to do with them. The suspect was arrested on the night of April 10th by the Anti-Crime Brigade in municipality of Les Pens Maribo. following a series of incidents reported by livestock owners since early 2026. Farmers had reported finding various injured animals, all showing signs of sexual abuse. Some animals were found with their legs bound. My God. In an effort to identify the perpetrator, owners installed motion-activated cameras on their land. The footage captured a young man approaching the herds, which was later used by police to identify and apprehend the suspect. But here we have Matt Canavan, and actually it's worked out that I did this is a little bit out of order, telling us how we're all Australians and we all contribute, and admittedly, this is an incident in France, but we're importing the same kinds of people. Palaszczuk even shacked up with one of these wonderful kinds of people. And they want to tell us that, we're all Australian. I can't help but feel some people may have come to Australia under that guise, but I don't feel that they're really embracing the culture. I don't know, maybe if you're a New Zealander, although there is a bit of debate over who shags more sheep, whether it's Aussies or New Zealanders. I have seen that argument. But, we're standing on the Australian side of the fence, so it's appropriate for us to make sure that, the New Zealanders cop the flack for that. But, let's face it, this isn't good. And I don't see this kind of multiculturalism really being of any great benefit when you're bringing these kinds of people in. What kind of a person looks at a goat or a sheep for that matter and thinks, might have a crack at that? What is wrong with you? What is wrong with you? So off the back of that, the Liberal Party has fended off One Nation in the Nepean by-election. So the mainstream media are like, oh, it was a, One Nation or some sort of ruly bunch, and they've fended them off in some sort of a street fight. Like, again, manipulative journalism. You can see who they're favoring. And, if the mainstream journalism and the mainstream government don't like it, there's a good chance it might be somewhat good for you. But anyway, the Victorian Liberals have claimed victory in the by-election. They claimed victory. So we should just give it to them because they claimed it? Bad wording again. Bad wording. Despite a significant swing against the party, the One Nation candidate effectively conceded the by-election. So that's an interesting word. They claimed victory after somebody else gave up. So anyway, interesting wording, and important to maintain all these remembering points as you remembering points. What a fucking, there's bad English onto itself. Sorry. Pain. So speaking to so anyway, they're saying that there was a launch pad for their November seat. It was interesting that the Labor Party did nothing. Obviously, they didn't even put a fucking person in, possibly didn't want to be in the race to perhaps preserve face, because the Labor Party, particularly in Victoria, is, how the hell they continuously get voted in is astounding, and we have to look at, the bags of or the boxes of ballots that went missing and go, how did that happen? I wonder, was it intentional? Anyway, the One Nation bird won twice on that account, I could see, so that was good. But anyway, you can see they're all in panic stations. And just looking at the internet recently, you see all these leftists, leftists I've never actually seen come up in my feed, or all of a sudden coming up in my feed as if they're somehow paid to get there, to try, they're specifically targeted certain people in this, they've got the demographic and they're going, right, the algorithm is now funding the fear campaign towards One Nation. Now, as much as I don't have the footy team love for One Nation that a lot of people do when they come picking their political parties, I trust no one, because at the end of the day, no one has given me any reason to give them trust. They've all shit in my face in one way, shape, or another, and they're all in it for their own personal interests, because that's the nature of politics in this country, is to be self-serving and to only care about yourself. Because at the end of the day, when it comes to election day, you're the one who has to do all the work. You're the one who puts up all the money, even though you end up getting it refunded if you get past a certain point. It's all a scam. It's all a joke. I don't trust any of them, and certainly don't trust, Duckface here. She's a horrible piece of shit. She's been handed the keys to dissent. Dan Andrews didn't want to go down with the ship, so he took the life raft and left her in charge. It's like, remember the whole Titanic thing, remembering as a kid, women and children first. I'm like, well, it's okay, I'm a child, but what happens when I grow up? What, I've got to fucking surrender? Like, and to that? Fuck me. Well, Dan Andrews did what I thought was the right thing to do as a 10-year-old kid, hearing about that, and abandoned ship and left her in charge. Hey, it's a liberal society. Let's leave her in charge of the sinking fucking ship. So the time will tell. Will the ship sink, or will they find another way to fudge an election? Because I don't trust it. But anyway. So they keep, they keep attacking. They keep attacking. It doesn't matter. Anyway, let's move on to the Anzac Day heckler. And of course, Channel 7 on the, right here on the cusp of absolute propaganda bullshit that we're no doubt going to see, sure enough, have found their scapegoat. They've found their little, right-wing troll, and they pick on this poor young fella for having an opinion. But what's interesting, well, let's face it. Let's actually just play the video and you'll see what I'm talking about.
We can reveal the man who booed the welcome to country at the Anzac Day dawn service in Martin Place.
So automatically, the man, one singular person, it's all his fault. That's what they're telling you straight from the get-go.
And he's making no apologies.
We tracked down...
He said something and he meant it. No. Even in the face of our relentless pursuit against logic.
24-year-old Eli Toby, who's living with his parents near Penrith.
Of course, they've got the basement dweller.
It's not the first time he's been in the spotlight. He was also at a neo-Nazi rally outside Parliament House.
How convenient.
Out of the shadows and into the light. I want to talk to you about your booing.
So they sat there stalking this guy, and we have to wonder how long they waited. Scapegoat, exactly, Jason, exactly.
3 days after a remembrance service that will be hard to forget, we decided...
Now, it was hard to forget. Listen to that chorus, right? Now, they're trying to say that it's just this one guy, but listen to the voices. He must have some amazing abilities to project his voice, not only project it, but to split it into multiples.
3 days after a remembrance service that will be hard to forget, we decide to say boo to Sydney's accused Anzac agitator.
Why did you boo at those people?
Leave me alone, please. No, at the dawn service. He is 24-year-old Eli Toby and...
So a 24-year-old dude, still living at home with mum and dad, probably because of the fucking state of the country. Might have actually moved out, gotten a house of his own if he could fucking afford it. But we don't want to talk about that. No, we want to drag this guy down.
While you mightn't have seen him, police will allege you most certainly heard him. All six...
How could you over the other cry of fucking pissed off people, for fuck's sake?
66 seconds of he and a band of dawn service spoilers. Do you have any apology?
Oh, now they acknowledge the band. But no, we're going to tack on. We're going to pick our weak target. We found our weak link in the chain. Let's make everybody look like this poor fella.
To make to the diggers, to their families. How'd you find me? Living at home with mum and dad.
Exactly. That's the $1 million question. How did they find him? How did they get the information? Has Channel 7 been stalking every neo-Nazi rally, logging every fucking face, and then stalking all this? And then who leaked the information? Like, they've been given information. Because I've worked with mainstream journalists. They're not that fucking good.
Do they know about what happened?
I haven't told him yet. I'd rather you guys not tell him.
But the secret's out, and not for the first time. Here he is at last year's neo-Nazi rally outside Parliament House.
The welcome.
Now, that would have taken a lot of work to go and find all this shit. I can tell you right now, from somebody who does these sorts of research points, and having worked in the mainstream media, it actually requires effort and work, something that generally mainstream journalists don't fucking do.
Country, it's not right.
Why is it not right?
Because it's designed to humiliate the memory of white Australia.
Do you think that was the right forum, though, to do it?
Haven't really given much thought, to be honest.
But others have.
I was appalled.
Yeah, is it the right for? Well, he was upset because he heard something he's had enough of, something that a lot of people have had enough of. But of course, we've got the right people saying the right things that we want to project.
Totally disgusted.
It actually made me cry. While Saturday's shout down.
So we found the two people that were happy to say what they wanted to say. And I've watched them do this. The mainstream journalists do this shit. They will stand in the street. They will ask 100 people till they get the two that say what they want.
Triggered widespread disgust. It also triggered broad debate, with the RSL now reviewing the entire welcome to country concept.
It's about bloody time, don't you think? I mean, even Aboriginal people don't agree with it.
Welcome to country has been overdone, and I think that is unfortunate.
But while some argue over that, there's not.
And one does have to wonder, how many times do you have to be welcomed to the country? I mean, not to mention the fact that the way they're doing it and what they're doing has absolutely no bearing on what the ceremony actually means. It's not what it's supposed to be, you know. Like, it's nuts. It's politicized. And I don't see these people going to the, you know, Indigenous people's $1 million mansions who are getting paid shitloads of money to perform these fucking services. If their spirituality and their culture means that much to them, why are they getting paid to do it?
No retreat from this.
Not sorry for it.
Not sorry for the booing.
I should be able to say what I like.
He'll
exactly
appear in court in June.
Can you please leave now?
All right.
Thanks.
Clementine Cuneo, 7 News.
So, we can expect to see horrific journalism this evening, that's for sure, as they charge through with their propaganda campaign. Actually, I need to re-download that one too. But before we get there, let's have a look at why you shouldn't buy Bluey products. And I have been informed about this before. I'm sorry, you know who you are. But it was pointed out to me again recently, and it is in a recent article here. The homegrown Aussie hit Bluey has become a global sensation in recent years, but all dollar bucks generated from the show go overseas. Well done, Australia. Sold out again. What a great job. You know, is there anything that we can't produce or already have in the dirt that we can't give to a foreign nation for fuck all? What the? This is disgusting. I mean, I don't understand how the creators of the show allowed this to happen. Did they just see a big fat bag of cash and thought, you know what, this is a really easy way to, you know, set myself up to do fuck all for the rest of my life? Who gives a shit what happens to the cultural identity of Australia, or the fact that this has been such a massive hit that, you know, Americans are now gathering Australian accents for the first time, which is really good to see. You know, a little bit of our own handed back. So how did licensing end up botching the Bluey billions? You know, it was a deal of a lifetime that never happened for our national public broadcaster, the ABC. ABC dropped the ball, would be the opening statement, seems to be. While homegrown hit Bluey has become a global TV sensation, Australia's been left the poor cousin, as fucking usual. There's nothing, I mean, so many brilliant inventions we come up with. Anyway, the British sister broadcaster, the BBC, making billions each year off the show's popularity. Why are we handing it over to BBC? For fuck's sake, hasn't Britain fucked this country enough? Why isn't the ABC making money from one of its most popular international hits? Let's take a look at Bluey's rise to fame as well. The deals that cost Australia billions each year in lost revenue. This is absolutely disgraceful. Bluey was commissioned by the ABC and its British publication service equivalently, the BBC, in 2017. The ABC paid the majority of funding in exchange for the broadcasting rights here in Australia, while the BBC paid 30% of production costs and scored global distribution and commercial rights. What the fuck? So again, Aussies' taxes, which fund ABC, funded it all so the BBC could get all the distribution and commercial rights. What the fuck? The beloved cartoon about a blue heeler puppy has since become essential viewing for children and parents across 140 countries, including the United States, where it is the most streamed show. And I actually looked at another publication that claimed that apparently it even streams more than fucking Stranger Things. Stranger Things is a pretty huge sensation, but Bluey is even more popular. So 45.2 billion minutes of it last year. Its popularity has helped to sell Bluey-related products such as toys, books, and clothes, a lot of which are utter garbage. And it's another example of things that really pissed me off. I was really pissed off at the Wiggles, you know, during the first lot of children for the same fucking reason, because the products they put that name to after they hook your kids in are utter shit. I remember one family member bought us a Wiggles drum kit, and it was fucking garbage, absolutely unusable even by a child. It was just shit, but these things are generally pushed towards people who have no idea. They don't understand a musical instrument. We even had a Kmart guitar at one place. You couldn't even fucking tune it. It was utter shit. Cheap shit like that should never be allowed on the shelves. And you got leftards jumping up and down about a fucking plastic straw. And I noticed, actually, I went to Sushi the other day to get, a half decent feed from a fucking food court. Most of it's shit anyway. Sushi, well, I've heard from Japanese, it's apparently shit, but it's better than most of the crap that we get from fucking places these days. And of course, the leftards have won again. You can't have the convenient little fish squeezy thing that was mess free and was really easy for even a child to use. No, we've got this fucking useless bloody plastic shit, which is just the same as the useless plastic shit that we had, but now it's a tear packet and it's not shaped like a fish. So I guess the leftards can be less offended because it's a different shape. Must be better, right? But it was fucking useless. Soy sauce fucking everywhere, especially when you give it to kids. Fucking another dumbass left-hearted fuckwit idea. Fuck me, these people piss me off. Anyway, back to the point, how the ABC blew it. ABC has since come under scrutiny for signing off on the deal that handed overseas rights to the BBC, despite the show being created by Australian animator Joe Baum and produced by Brisbane-based Ludo Studios. The merchandise deals alone is worth billions. And anybody who's watched fucking Spaceballs have seen the scene. Merchandising, where the real money from the movie is made. Take it from a Jew. He fucking made the movie and he pointed it out. Because Spaceballs were actually contracted, okay, you're allowed to do the movie, but you're not allowed to sell merchandise because that's where the money is. The merchandise deal alone is worth billions. And Australia makes $0 from it. So stop buying bluey shit. I know it hurts. It's really hard to explain politics to a child, but I've had to do it. It's the same as the way they market those vile fucking drinks with cartoon characters on them at the low shelf where all the kids can see them, and they're all filled with fucking toxic shit. And it sucks. It pisses me off to no end that I have to explain to children, sorry, these guys are selling you poison. They don't care that you're a kid. And the kid doesn't care. All he sees is a fucking cartoon character. And that's the sick nature of this fucking world we live in. And the vile government that allows this shit to happen. The merchandise deal alone is worth billions, and Australians make $0 from it. Yep, emphasizing the point. Entrepreneur Charlie Gearside, who sold his startup Eucalyptus in February for $1.6 billion, has obviously said that. In a video shared to social media this week, Mr. Gearside said the arrangement was one of the worst deals struck in history. The entrepreneur said, every time we watched Bluey with his young son, all I can think about is the jobs and the wage growth that we left on the table in a room in the ABC headquarters in Ultimo. He estimated Bluey could be bringing in as much as $2.5 billion for the BBC each year, more than double the ABC's annual budget. So one of the most useless fucking networks on Australian television and media in particular, the left as utter shit, sold us out again. By God. A Freedom of Information request has also found that ABC didn't try to negotiate a merchandise deal at the time the show was being commissioned. How fucking nearsighted. Only a leftard could be so fucking stupid. Most opportunities for Australia. Mr. Gearside said there were other examples of Australian inventions, such as solar panels. We invented that shit. Oh God, I don't really want to put my name to that one. That were commercialized overseas. We invented world-class stuff here in Australia, and then we hand the value to someone else. First waterproof gun, by the way, came from Australia. I wonder how many of them have been manufactured by American weapons manufacturers since Aussies come up with it. We come up with great shit all the time and we get robbed fucking blind. We have a shit government and a shit system. There should be some sort of a blockade that stops things like this getting out past the Australian borders. I'm pretty sure China has those kind of things in place. Instead, we just gave them to the BBC in a dud deal. Now the BBC is rolling in cash while the ABC is feeding off the Australian public yet again. Sips to the astounding innovation of the Australian commercial fucking industry, the vile nature of the ABC, and our shit government. Big sits. And again, unfortunately, most of the products that have bluey on it are utter garbage. Utter garbage. And horrifically overpriced because it has the name on it. And why is this happening? Because somebody allowed it to happen. Personally, had I come up with this sort of shit, I would never have handed it over to ABC or another fucking organization. Why are we still working on this shit? And this is a video actually that gets into it a little bit more. I haven't watched the whole thing, but that's what was sent to me for me to get rolling. Anyway, so there it is in the comments if you want to have a look at it. All right, let's cut that shit off. Let's bring in something else. Yes, there were other things I wanted to get to. I'm going to have to do it quickly because we're running out of time. Wrong picture. I want this one. Video files. All right. Australia is being plundered. Here's another example of how we're getting rolled.
Not poor. It is being plundered. Let's put real numbers on this, because slogans aren't enough anymore. Australians are told there's no money. We are told to tighten our belts, to accept higher taxes, higher rents, higher power bills. Meanwhile, here's what our federal politicians actually earn. A base-level federal MP or senator earns around $217,000 a year. A minister earns between $260,000 and $300,000 plus. A senior cabinet minister earns over $320,000 a year. And the Prime Minister Albislezi earns over $550,000 a year. Now let's add the endless perks. They receive taxpayer-funded staff, office budgets, accommodation and travel allowances including for their families, unlimited subsidized travel, security, superannuation far higher than the average worker receives, even after they have retired. So when you hear $270,000, understand this. They receive hundreds of thousands dollars more. Now let's talk about the part no is saying out loud. The kickback system. Not brown paper bags or movie-style bribes. The legal kind. Corporate donations. Industry lobbying. Board appointments after politics. Consulting contracts. Advisory roles that pay more than most Australians earn in a year. Ministers regulate industries then leave politics and get hired by energy, mining, banking, defence and medical corporations. That's not conspiracy. That's called the revolving door. And while this corporate grubberment protects its own, ordinary Australians are working 2 or 3 jobs, skipping meals, delaying medical care, living in cars, giving up on ever owning a home. In one of the most resource-rich countries on Earth, Australia exports LNG, coal, iron ore, gold, lithium, rare earths. Other nations use this wealth to lift their people. Australia hands it to foreign multinationals, shareholders, corporate executives, and then tells its people there's no money. Let's be clear. This is not incompetence. It's a corporate model of governance that privatizes profit, socializes loss, rewards insiders and burdens the public with more tax and new taxes. Australia is not broke. Australia is one of the richest nations on earth and one of the most plundered. Enough is enough. This isn't left versus right. It's people versus a corporate system that no longer serves we the people. And the moment Australians stop accepting this as normal is the moment this corrupt model starts to collapse. Because a rich country with poor people hasn't failed. It's been robbed. Now let's do the real comparison. Let's look at what other resource-rich countries actually do. Norway. Oil and gas profits go into a sovereign wealth fund worth over $1.6 trillion USD and is owned by the people. Those fund pays for free healthcare, free university education, strong pensions, national security. Norway didn't get luckier than Australia. They chose public benefits over corporate greed. Australia exports similar resources, but instead of a people's fund. Profits go offshore. Royalties are weak. Multinationals dominate. Households pay record energy prices and taxes. Qatar. Gas wealth means zero income tax for its people. Free electricity and water. One of the highest GDPs per capita in the world. Australia. high income tax, high power bills, high rent, high stress. United Arab Emirates. Their people receive land grants, housing assistance, no income tax, world-class infrastructure. Australia. A housing crisis. First home buyers locked out. Rent consuming more than half a household income. Saudi Arabia. Free healthcare, fuel subsidies, interest-free housing support. Australia exports fuel, yet Australians pay over $2 a litre. Did you hear that? The difference isn't culture and it's not geography nor productivity. The difference is who the system is designed to serve, and it's not we the people. Other nations treat natural resources as national inheritance, while Australia treats them as corporate assets. We socialise the cost and privatise the profit. And then we are told that there's no money for hospitals, no money for housing, no money for pensions, no money for families. While political salaries, perks, and post-politics paydays remain untouched and increasing. This is not normal. This is not inevitable, and it is definitely not sustainable. A country this rich should not have people this poor. Australia is not failing. The corporate governance model is. And the longer Australians are told to accept less, pay more, while insiders take more, the closer the system gets to its breaking point. Enough is enough. Not through anger or violence, but through awareness, lawful action, and standing in truth, because real change begins the moment people stop consenting by default. Thank you and God bless. Commonwealth Custodians Community.
There you have it. Sorry, stupid buttons again. It's pretty obvious. It's pretty straightforward. And of course, because we, the people, are waking up to these concepts and seeing what the hell's going on and seeing how much we're being absolutely railroaded here, we look forward to this kind of propaganda being thrown on the television tonight, because those who are standing up against constant rape, economically, physically, mentally, spiritually, by a corrupt system, this is the kind of propaganda they're putting out to stand against those who have the common sense to see this is a fucking fraud.
A disastrous mess. What we are doing is helping to put it back together.
Well, at least they started with the right kind of thing, but you notice the first thing, they got Parliament building, oh no, they've attacked Parliament building, there's a whole different fucking kettle of fish, but anyway, but their opening statement is the correct thing.
It's a disastrous mess.
It is a disastrous fucking mess. Why?
What we are doing is helping to put it back together.
And that's what people are trying to do, but we're obviously going to be met with resistance from lamestream pieces of shit who put this kind of propaganda out, and the vile fucking government who has everything to lose because they get to sit around, do fuck all, fly around all over the world at our expense, and they don't want their gravy train to end, do they?
Australians who've declared war on Australian law. The authority of this court.
I like that. We've declared war on Australian law. I'm pretty sure it's Australian law that it attacks the people. And because ever heard of lawfare? That's what they're doing to us. This is a natural response to a corrupt system.
It flows directly from the sovereign people.
We've got the law. We are the guardians of the law.
Why their numbers are growing.
Do you believe we should be paying tax? Income tax is voluntary, but they won't tell you that.
And why some of them are growing more extreme.
I need an army. I need you to become that army.
In a spotlight investigation, why we're losing the battle against sovereign citizens.
Wow, the fanciful bullshit term that they associate with somebody that they murdered before he got a chance to defend himself. Astounding.
I just wanted to ask you some questions about your friendship with Desi Freeman.
For our country to lose 6 officers in 4 years, it just shows you the scale of risk.
All new.
The scale of risk. Oh. It's garbage. As soon as I see this, brother man Darren sent this to me. And, my response is, buckle up, buckaroo. I have a feeling they're coming, They need to get the Australian people's support to turn on their own people. and they need to use propaganda and bullshit to do it. And tonight's fucking pile of shit, we can see it's a pile of shit straight away from the fucking thing. I don't think I'm going to waste my time watching it. I think it'll just infuriate me. And you take a look what Jackie Dundee and Rod Cullen are doing, fighting for our constitutional rights. Yeah, look, I speak to Jackie and Darryl, you know, all the time. I know these people. I know they're fighting for our system. I'm well aware of it. Hence that video that I showed just before it come from, you know, the Commonwealth custodians. It's, you know, Jackie's right involved in that. Trust me, I know. They're doing great work, and I'm always happy to have them, you know, come and spread the word over here. We'll get them on. Like I said, it was Darren who sent me that video in the first place, and as I was just saying, you know, I can't help but feel that the vile controllers, I guess, for lack of a better term, you know, though the gang, the cabal, they need to stop what's happening. They need to stop the Great Awakening because they need the people asleep. They need, if not asleep, at least in fear, where we can control them. And that's the really important message that I started with, and I'm going to finish with, is to make sure that you are not in a state of fight or flight scenario. They want you in that reptilian brain where the only reaction you have is fight or run. That's what they want, because they have the upper hand at that point, because they're coming at this from a calm, cool, collective position. Similar, this is exactly what was taught to me in martial arts. You know, when you come across a confrontational situation, I know it's not easy. It is hard. It is a hard thing to do, because you've got to override built-in defense mechanisms that they are specifically trying to trigger. Your basic survival instinct is to go into a fight or fly response when directly threatened. You know, it is a natural reaction. It takes a bit of work. Self-preservation is obviously going to be your first and foremost concern. So we all need to kind of find our own way to calm down in that scenario, whatever works for you. You know, I'm not going to sit here and dictate this works for me because, you know, and so therefore you should do it because I did it. You know, I'm not going to be, hey, look, well, I stopped smoking and it's been the greatest thing I've ever fucking done. You know, I mean, if you want to have a cigarette, go for your life. It doesn't bother me. I don't give a shit. You know, I wouldn't recommend it. You know, I mean, Struth, you want to sit down and have a beer with me? Fucking great. Awesome. You know, cheers, sips. But everything in moderation. You've got to be able to, you know, keep yourself in check. And again, it can be challenging in the face of all this depression and misery. Sometimes you just need a vice, whether it's a fucking a McSlop burger, whether it's a fucking beer, whether it's a cigarette, you know, or something else. You know, everybody's got to have their thing. You've got to enjoy your life somewhere, somehow. You can't sit there and be a misery guts all your life to try and save this and save that. You've got to live your life, and you've got to have that balance, you know, which is kind of what I liked about what, old mate was saying on Friday. It's that balance, the bush life balance. You've got to get into nature. You've got to take your shoes off and ground yourself. These kinds of whatever works for you, you know, is where you really want to go. And you don't need people telling you what to do and how to do it. That's where we got pissed off in the first place. And unfortunately, I guess some people still fall into those, categories of doing that because it's what we've been taught to do. So, but what I'm trying to get at, ladies and gentlemen, is to maintain your calm center. And of course, look at this bloody bullshit. What a whopping load of crap. But find a way to take the piss out of it. That's one of the most dangerous things about the Australian culture, is our ability to take the piss out of something and call it for what it is. And we're losing that as we're being, you know, inundated with so many different things to have us divided and so they can conquer us. We need to be the best of the best. We need to maintain ourselves at the highest standard. And of course, I have to admit, I haven't really been doing that. I've been pissed off. I've been in a lot of pain for a long time, and I fire off probably more than I should. And I need to live a little bit more by what I'm saying myself. I'm not fucking perfect. And Adrian's like, puff, puff, give. Go for it, mate. Mate, it's a plant. The gods themselves, according to the Bible, gave it to us. So why the fuck shouldn't we be using it? At the end of the day, it's a wonderful medicinal product. You know, demonized. I actually looked at this. There was a video. I can't remember the name of it. But there was a documentary I downloaded recently. Fuck, from a few years ago. It gets right into the demonization of marijuana. You know why it was demonized? Because there were black people down at the clubs in America smoking it, and their young daughters were going down to the clubs and having a good time with black people. Who are the real fucking racists here? Come on. You know, at the end of the day, the war on marijuana is a racist war. Go figure. You know, yeah. Black people were enjoying it. You know, the likes of Louis Armstrong and, you know, all these great jazz musicians and shit, people that were revered, but they were being attacked by the American government because they needed something. So they attacked weed. Weed is not dangerous. In my opinion, I've never seen a stoner really go nuts. You know, some people have an adverse reaction on a mental level, and it's been my personal experience. I've not studied it extensively, but my personal experience, people who had problems had a shitload of problems to start with. The weed was just guiding them to the problems, and rather than deal with the problems, you know, other people just go, oh, it must be the weed. It must be the weed. It's not the fact that you're an abusive family and abuse the kid. No, that's not the problem. No, it must be the weed. All right. You know, that's the mentality of the world that we live in. You know, let's blame a plant rather than the fact that you've got a fucked up family environment, for example. You know, I don't want to name names or anything, but I've seen it happen. It's bullshit. You know, it's absolutely ridiculous. Any wonder people self-medicate when you can't get help in the world, you know, in a world that doesn't help. It creates more problems. You know, it benefits from the problems. It sells products because of the problems. We can't have a simple solution that would actually work. Fuck no. Bad idea, that is, you know. It's, you know. Anyway, I've had a gutful. I'm in too much pain to think clearly today, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you've enjoyed the show. I hope you've learnt something. If not, you know, feel a little bit more vilified by the fact that you're not the only one. You're not alone, like I've felt for so many decades. You know, I actually feel good about, you know, even though I'm in a lot of pain, I'm actually really positive about the way the things are going, because now others can see. I couldn't have done this podcast 20 fucking years ago. Nobody would have listened. I couldn't even get friends to listen half the time. I had to find that random guy at the pub. And actually, I want to end on this too. Speaking of finding that random fella at the pub that I'd have a great conversation with, you know, much like, you know, what's happened between Jody Lowe and Robin. I missed it. You know, what usually happens to me, like, and I'll cite, this is a perfect example. I was at a pub this one particular day. I think it was in Hawthorne, you know, going out in the town with some friends, you know, they were friends, but I didn't know them all that well. You know, they were kind of people I'd knocked around with in high school, sort of thing, you know. I guess dubious people might be a nice way of putting it. But I'd gone out in the town, go get on a few beers, and I hear the last drinks call, as you do. Right, better get to the bar and get a couple more in because it's a long trip home. You know, go down to the bar, just having a random chat with some dude. You know, got me a couple of beers because they only let you have two at the end or whatever. You know, we just sunk those drinks, and it was really great conversation about all this kind of shit. And this was like, fuck. Yeah, good 20 years ago, at least. You know, how the state of the world, the state of spirituality, and things such as, you know, the Celestine prophecy, and, you know, the Ra work from the Love and Light LL research group, all the kind of weird, wacky shit that I really like to get into, because it just shows you an alternative perspective more than anything. Is it true? Who knows? You know, time will tell, hopefully. But at the end of the day, it was just a wonderful conversation. We have this really positive conversation, knocked off a couple of beers. Nice to meet you, brother. Might see you again around in the traps. Let's go. I've got to go find me mates. I get out. I'm like, where the fuck did everybody go? Fuck, was I having a yarn for that long? Because sometimes it's like time just sort of gets away from you. It certainly does from me. You know, when I'm into something, I'm fucking into it. And there's a few people who, you know, especially those very close to me, who pointed out, I mean, you get into something, fucking everything gets shut off. I'm there. I'm in that zone. I want to know everything I can about it, you know. And I come out of that fucking sort of a trance, and where's everybody going? And I'm looking around, maybe, I don't know, it felt like an eternity at the time, because I'm like, fuck, I've been ditched. I'm gonna have to find my own way home. You know, and then I see in the distance, oh shit, they're all the way down the street. What the fuck are they doing? I get over there. What's going on, guys? Where are we? Oh, did you see the fucking punch on? I'm like, punch on? was at the bar having a wonderful conversation about spirituality and all sorts of weird shit. You know, like, oh no, we had this huge fucking fight. No, so did this and oh fuck, look at all the blood on my back when old mate kicked him in the fucking head. I'm like, oh, what the fuck? The gods keep me away from these things 9 times out of 10. You know, it was like some positive force stepped in at the bar while I was there to keep me distracted, so I didn't end up in that shit. You know, to find, you know, like, oh, well, we better get you dumbasses out of here then, you know. That's the long story short. But that's just one of many of times where fucking shit has just gone absolutely crazy in a venue just a few meters away from me. I wasn't there. I was off having a completely different fucking experience, a positive one, possibly because of the energy I put out. Generally, I'm a very positive person. What you see here, the show is me venting a lot of shit, and it's also focusing in on what the audience obviously thrives on in some way, shape, or form. But at the end of the day, the moral of the story is there. Keep putting the positive vibes out. Keep your mind focused. Do not allow them to trigger you back into a reptilian state of mind. You know, whether you believe in David Icke's work that the world's run by reptiles or not isn't really the point. But you could see how that could work in that reptile brain construct. You know, you need to step outside that and get into your human brain, because then you can make logical, rational decisions like, I ain't queuing up to get that fucking poison put in me. Why do I need to go and get a test for a virus that's so deadly? I didn't even know I had it. What? How could it be deadly? What the fuck? What you mean if I stand up while having a beer, I could catch COVID, but if I'm sitting down, I'm okay? I mean, seriously, you have to be in fight or flight response to be that fucking gullible. It's that simple. So, anyway. Hope you've enjoyed it all. I'm not sure what next week sorts out. I've got things to do on a Friday night, so I'll either do a pre-record or I won't do anything at all. But the next Friday afterwards, I've got Guru coming on. I'm looking forward to that conversation. That I've had one brief yarn with him, and I was really inspired by the positive nature of old mate, particularly, especially what he's been going through. So I look forward to having a yarn. We haven't really planned anything outside of a quick conversation of, hey, this is who I am. This is who you are. What's going on? I did pick his brain about a couple of little things just out of pure curiosity, but I didn't want to dive too deep, because what I love the most about doing this show is doing it raw. And I want to ask the questions as they come to me. I want to deal with things as they happen so that you get a real feel for what is, you know, actually happening and how we react and see things as a people. I don't want to plan things. I don't want to have a list of questions, you know, and things like that. I don't want to go, hey, we're going to talk about this, and then when we do that, we'll go into this. No, that's not how I roll. That's how mainstream media roll, because they want to control the situation. Fuck that. Real, raw. The way you would have a conversation is if you just met that guy at the pub. So I hope you've all enjoyed it. Please feel free to support the network. If you can't find a way in the comments or the descriptions or whatever to do that, hit me up, nqfreedomnetwork@protonmail.com. Of course, this show is not supposed to be about me having a rant and a rave and, you know, venting my own personal frustrations from time to time. It's supposed to be about you, the people. So if you've got stories to share, please drop in and share those fucking stories. It's up to us all to make this better. I can't do this alone. You can't do this alone. Jody Lowe can't do this alone. Robin can't do this alone. Michael can't do this alone. Darren can't do this alone. Jackie can't do this alone. We all need to come together. That is the final message for today. So I hope you fucking enjoyed all this shit. Sorry, I've gone into swearing mode again. It must be the third beer syndrome kicking in. So anyway, sips, ladies and gentlemen, and I'll see you next week, some way, shape or form. I will endeavor to do something on Friday in a pre-record scenario, so don't be surprised if comments aren't coming up properly and all that sort of shit. It's just an unfortunate side effect about the way I've got to do things, because I won't be here to do it myself. Sips.